Chapter 68. In terms of speed, Jiang Xi's biggest advantage was his wind shadow step, which was close to the refinement stage. Wind shadow step was a high-level Gen 10 Buden treasure class movement technique. After it was close to the refinement stage, his speed and agility could barely reach the C class, which was just over half the speed of sound. Marble's speed was close to the speed of sound. His speed was not as good as his opponent. If this continued, Marble would definitely catch up to him. Jiang Xi's actual combat power was close to the C class, and with his speed, he could fight against a C-class monster. But this did not mean that he could fight against a real C-class warrior. A C-class warrior was much stronger than a C-class monster. Especially a veteran C-class warrior like Marble, his combat experience must be very rich. Once they fought, in a situation where his speed and combat power were not as good as his opponent, the only result was death. What should I do? Jiang Xi's brain was working at high speed. In an instant, he thought of many methods, but none of them were feasible. Marble was closing in behind him. So fast. Marble's eyes were cold. He did not expect Jiang Xi's speed to be so fast. He was almost as fast as a C-class warrior. Suddenly, the killing intent in his heart became stronger. This kind of genius must die. In just 3 seconds, the distance between the two was less than a kilometer. The rain poured down, mixed with lightning and thunder. Raindrops the size of beans fell on Jiang Xi's face, and his whole body was wet. When he was moving at high speed, the friction with the air generated heat, causing the rainwater on his body to evaporate. What should I do? What should I do? Am I going to die here? No. I will definitely not die here. Calm down. Calm down. Jiang Xi gritted his teeth, trying not to panic. At this time, if he panicked, he would have no chance at all. The area in front of him was just right for the open terrain, and it was at the edge of the ruins 052. There were very few monsters. It was not feasible to use the terrain or the herd to help him escape. He could not win, and he could not escape. What should he do? Right. Dragon spirit fruit. Jiang Xi's mind flashed. This was the only way for them to have a chance. The problem was that if he directly consumed the spiritual item, it was very likely that his body would explode and die because his body couldn't withstand the impact of the large amount of spirit chi energy. This dragon mark spiritual fruit is only 20% ripe. The spiritual chi it contains may only be 10% to 20% of the mature state. As long as I can quickly increase my level and martial skill experience through the experience bar and digest the spiritual energy in time, I might be able to withstand the impact. If I don't use spirit items, I'll definitely die. However, if I use spirit items, I might be able to survive. In an instant, in less than a second, Jiang Xi found a sliver of hope in a desperate situation. Eat. Jiang Xi took out the dragon spirit fruit from the inner pocket of his combat uniform as he ran. The fruit exuded a faint spiritual aura that was extremely alluring. At this time, Marble, who was chasing after him, was about 800 meters away from Jiang Xi. This brat's movement technique is rather profound. It seems to be a high-grade movement technique. His martial talent is outstanding, but I didn't expect that even his comprehension ability is so heaven-defying. He must die. Marble's murderous intent intensified. As everyone knew, movement techniques were difficult to practice. Even the movement technique he was using now was only an intermediate movement technique. Hey! That's a spiritual item fruit. Marble's eyes suddenly widened. When he saw the fruit in Jiang Xi's hand, he instantly became excited. He didn't expect Jiang Xi to have such a treasure. Marble, of course, knew that a mature spiritual item fruit was priceless. However, in the next moment, he saw Jiang Xi about to stuff the fruit into his mouth. Stop! Damn it! Marble shouted twice in a row. His last shout was filled with heartache. Jiang Xi swallowed the fruit the size of a baby's fist without even chewing it. The distance between the two was about 500 meters. He would catch up in 5 seconds at most. Haha, old fart. Jiang Xi sneered. However, Jiang Xi couldn't laugh after that. The dragon mark fruit was very magical. It melted in his mouth. In the blink of an eye, It transformed into a huge amount of spiritual energy in his body and spread to every part of his body. Jiang Xi's body was like a balloon. It was obvious that it had swelled up. Poof! Poof! On the surface of his skin, blue veins popped out and burst. In an instant, Jiang Xi was covered in blood. The torrential rain washed away the blood and mixed it with the rain. Damn it! You destroyed a spiritual item. Die! Die! Yunsha could see everything clearly from behind. He was furious and heartbroken. He knew that the spiritual item was gone. He couldn't wait to cut Jiang Xi into pieces. The intense pain caused Jiang Xi's consciousness to become blurry. Not only was his body about to explode, even his mind and consciousness were about to be torn apart. However, Jiang Xi clenched his teeth and roared in his heart, hang in there for me. Level increased by 100 experience point. Wind Shadow Step increased by 100 experience point. It was different from the time when he killed Shen Quan and exceeded his limit. This time, Jiang Xi's body was filled with a huge amount of spiritual energy. He didn't need to consume his own energy. As he used the panel to increase his level and martial skill experience, the spiritual energy was clearly decreasing. It was being consumed. At the same time, his body was rapidly strengthening. His strength and speed had a slight increase. Even his spiritual consciousness had been strengthened, and his thoughts had become clearer. There's hope. Jiang Xi's spirit was shaken. 100 points in one go is a bit too little. Level increased by 200 experience points. Wind Shadow Step increased by 200 experience point. In an instant, Jiang Xi's body and consciousness rapidly strengthened again. The huge amount of spiritual energy was reduced by more than 10%. This series of actions had already taken more than 3 seconds behind him. Marble was only 100 meters away from Jiang Xi. He could clearly see the changes in Jiang Xi. He actually didn't die and withstood the impact of the huge amount of spiritual energy. Marble revealed an expression of disbelief. This kid has a big secret on him. If I can get it, I might have a chance to become an A-class. Marble's eyes were burning. He was a C-class martial artist. At his current age, it would be very difficult for him to take another step on the path of martial arts. Die! Marble shouted excitedly. He took another step forward and slashed at Jiang Xi with the long blade in his hand. His speed was close to the speed of sound. In just 0.3 seconds, he crossed the 100-meter distance. The aura of the blade broke through the pouring rain. The blade's cold intent approached Jiang Xi's back. Clang! Jiang Xi turned around and slashed. The blade and sword collided, creating a huge force. Bang! Jiang Xi was like a cannonball. He was sent flying by the force and heavily smashed into a puddle more than 10 meters away. You can actually block my sword. And your speed is a bit faster than before. Marble didn't hide the greed in his eyes as he walked over step by step. After guessing that there was a secret on Jiang Xi's body, he planned to force out the secret before killing Jiang Xi. At this time, Jiang Xi's body and consciousness had just finished digesting the 200 experience points from his level and Wind Shadow Step. His strength increased again. Chapter 69. Still not enough. The spiritual energy that filled every part of his body was still enormous. Jiang Xi's body felt like it was about to be torn apart. Level increased by 500 experience point. Wind Shadow Step increased by 500 experience point. Wang. Suddenly, Jiang Xi, who was lying in the puddle, began to tremble violently. The flesh on his body was constantly expanding, tearing, contracting, and healing. During this process, the spiritual energy was rapidly consumed. Correspondingly, the strength of his body rapidly increased. In his mind, a large amount of Wind Shadow Step martial technique comprehension emerged from nothingness and attacked his consciousness, as if it was about to be drowned. However, the spiritual energy just happened to offset the impact of the martial technique comprehension. The Wind Shadow Step also directly reached the minute subtlety realm. At this time, Marble took a few steps forward and arrived in front of Jiang Xi. Seeing Jiang Xi's appearance, he sneered, trembling. Are you afraid? You should have a big secret on your body, right? Tell me and I'll let you die a quick death. Jiang Xi clenched his teeth. Under the intense pain, he couldn't hear what the other party was saying. The expanding spiritual energy in his body was unceasingly tearing his body apart. It was as if someone had used a blade to make a brush, brushing his body over and over again. Not talking? Mph. Then I'll chop off your leg first and slowly torture you until you talk. Marble sneered. As he spoke, he raised his blade and fiercely chopped down on Jiang Xi's leg. Whoosh! Jiang Xi's body lightly floated and instantly moved 10 meters away from the puddle. What? Marble's expression changed. He discovered that Jiang Xi's speed was actually close to the speed of sound. No. Marble's expression changed greatly. He suddenly realized that Jiang Xi just got up in a hurry. If Jiang Xi was given enough time to increase his speed, perhaps Jiang Xi could reach the speed of sound. This was the speed of a peak C-class martial artist. Die. Marble's killing intent burst forth. The long blade, with the force of 10,000 catties, continuously chopped out, dozens of times per second. He didn't dare to delay any longer. It had only been a few seconds, but he had witnessed Jiang Xi's strength increase with his own eyes. Huff! Huff! Jiang Xi lowered his head and made a sound that sounded like a monster's growl. He also wanted to speak, but his throat had already been torn apart by the spiritual energy. The blood vessels on his face were almost all ruptured, making him look ferocious. Facing Marble's all-out attack, Jiang Xi instantly executed wind shadow steps, which had already reached the refinement realm. His body was like a phantom, and his figure was like lightning. The slaughtering shadow sword's power had clearly increased as his speed increased. Clang clang clang, the slaughtering shadow sword blocked all of Marble's attacks. What? He blocked them all. Marble's expression was aghast. He was a veteran C-grade martial artist with rich combat experience. Go to hell, go to hell. Marble had a bad feeling. He roared and slashed out dozens of times. Huff, huff. Jiang Xi flew back and roared, his eyes full of mockery. At this time, the spiritual energy from the dragon mark spirit fruit was still abundant, with about 70% left. Although his body was still being torn apart, he had endured it. Level increased by 1,000 experience point. Wind shadow steps increased by 1,000 experience point. This time, Jiang Xi's body trembled even more violently. He could not even hold the slaughtering shadow sword firmly in his hand. Boom. There was a sonic boom. Jiang Xi did not face the enemy head-on. Instead, he turned and ran. In an instant, his speed surpassed the speed of sound and broke through the sound barrier. It really is the speed of sound. Marble had a strong fear in his heart. His body is still trembling. His strength will definitely be affected. This is my chance to kill him. Marble hurriedly chased after him. Soon, he realized that Jiang Xi's speed was actually increasing. The ominous feeling in his heart was getting stronger. In front of him, Jiang Xi's body and consciousness were rapidly strengthening. The trembling of his body was also decreasing in a breath. More than half of the spiritual energy from the dragon mark spirit fruit had disappeared, leaving less than 30%. With his current physical strength, he could already withstand the impact of the remaining spiritual energy. My turn. Jiang Xi's eyes were cold. This old bastard had been chasing him for so long, and he had almost killed him with a single slash. Whoosh! Jiang Xi's figure turned gracefully, turning around to face the attack. Haha. Not running anymore. Die. Marble laughed maniacally. However, just as he raised his saber, before he could swing it, Riverward suddenly erupted, his figure breaking through the curtain of rain. His sharp sword was as fast as lightning, piercing through Yunsha's chest. Boom. The next moment, there was a sonic boom. Jiang Xi's speed had exceeded the speed of sound in an instant. This is Class B. Marble's eyes were filled with shock and a trace of confusion. With a plop, he fell into the pouring rain. You have killed a Class C martial artist, experience points plus 70. After taking care of his opponent, Jiang Xi did not stop. Instead, he rushed to the highway toll station. Marble knows that I have a secret. When Feng Xiaocheng and the others find out that Marble is dead, they might also guess it. Killing one is still killing. Killing two is still killing. I might as well kill them all. The experience points panel and his rebirth identity were his biggest secrets. No matter what, he could not reveal them. Once someone found out, Jiang Xi knew that his final outcome would be death. My speed is completely faster than the speed of sound. I only need 5 seconds to get back to the toll station. However, there is no need to rush now. Let me use up the remaining spiritual energy in my body first. Immediately, Jiang Xi rushed back while increasing his level and martial arts experience. At the toll station at the highway exit, Feng Xiaocheng, Wen Qing, and the others were still hiding from the rain. It had only been less than a minute since Yun She had left. Uncle Yun should be back soon. What's regrettable is that he did not kill that beggar with his own hands. Feng Xiaocheng sneered. How could young Master Feng need to kill a trash beggar? Wan Qing smiled and complimented. At least you know how to talk. You have good eyesight. After my training ends, follow me and become my Feng family's bodyguard. How about it? Feng Xiaocheng nodded lightly. Wan Qing was overjoyed. He quickly replied, "It would be my honor. I am willing to go through fire and water for young Master Feng. Not bad." Feng Xiaocheng was very satisfied with Wan Qing's attitude. There were only 2 members left in the Hurricane Squad. One was Class D, and the other was Class E. The Class E martial artist was envious. He was only a member of the Hurricane Squad, not a bodyguard of the Feng family. Wan Qing was very excited. Feng Xiaocheng was the son of a Class A martial artist. If he could ride on Feng Xiaocheng's coattails, his future would be limitless. Perhaps, he could also become a Class C martial artist. Wan Qing looked forward to it. Young Master, Uncle Yun is back. The Class D martial artist of the Hurricane Squad pointed into the distance. In the pouring rain, a figure could be seen running towards them. Feng Xiaocheng and the others looked over. They were all smiling and relaxed. Something's not right. Wan Qing's expression changed as he ran. Different from Feng Xiaocheng and the others, he had met Jiang Xi many times. He had also investigated Jiang Xi together with Shen Guang. Therefore, he was very familiar with Jiang Xi. He recognized with a single glance that the figure was River Word. Chapter 70. Wan Qing, you? Wan Qing's sudden escape startled Feng Xiaocheng. Boom, 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 boom. That figure instantly appeared in front of Feng Xiaocheng and the others from 1,000 meters away. His sword broke through the rain. His ferocious face, which was full of ruptured blood vessels, frightened Feng Xiaocheng and the others. Jiang Xi. That sword was pointed at Feng Xiaocheng. Jiang Xi, you dare to kill me? Feng Xiaocheng's expression changed. He reached out to press the emergency button on his tactical communications watch. However, he neglected Jiang Xi's speed. So what if I kill you? Jiang Xi snorted. The killer shadow sword cut off both of Feng Xiaocheng's hands like lightning. With a light flick of the sword, Feng Xiaocheng's head was cut from his chin to his forehead. His head was cut in half. Blood and brain matter splattered and mixed with the rain. You killed a level D fighter. Experience plus 50, run. The remaining 2 fighters had yet to react. River Word stabbed out 2 more times, piercing through the 2 men's hearts. You killed a level D fighter. Experience plus 50, you killed a level E fighter. Experience plus 30, a level D and a level E fighter. Both were killed instantly. Trying to run? Jiang Xi's cold gaze turned towards Wan Qing, who had escaped 100 meters away. Whoosh! With a light step, he caught up with Wan Qing. Wan Qing was terrified. He shouted, Jiang Xi, don't kill. His voice stopped abruptly. His head flew up. You killed a level E fighter. Experience plus 30, from killing Feng Xiaocheng to Wan Qing's death, it took less than 3 seconds. Catcher! A dazzling flash of lightning pierced through the dark sky and reflected on the faces of Feng Xiaocheng and the other 3 corpses. River Word didn't even look at it. His figure didn't stop, and with his fastest speed, he quickly disappeared into the tall grass by the roadside like a bolt of lightning, rushing towards Ruin 052. The speed of sound was 340 meters per second. His current speed was more than 400 meters per second. In just half a minute, he had run 10 kilometers and entered a dilapidated commercial building in Ruin 052. The torrential rain showed no signs of stopping. Instead, it became even more intense. The rain washed away his tracks and gave him a good cover. Soon, puddles began to appear in Ruin number 052. Jiang Xi hid in the shabby residential commercial building, motionless. He was thinking about whether he had missed out on any details in his attack just now. Before making his move, Jiang Xi had already considered the possible consequences. After going back several times in his mind, he finally confirmed that he hadn't missed anything. The only problem now is Feng Shaoqing's identity. His father is an A-class martial artist. If he dies, that A-class martial artist will definitely be furious. Back in Ruin number 09, Feng Shaoqing and the others had fallen into a horde of beasts. In just a few seconds, 2 A-class martial artists had rushed over to help him out. One could imagine how powerful Feng Shaoqing's father was. With Feng Shaoqing's father's strength and identity, he might be able to find something. Jiang Xi was worried about the safety of Jiang Dudu and himself. So what if he finds out? At most, I'll just stay in Zhenten Buden and not go out. When the time comes, I'll let Jiang Dudu drop out of Beishan number 1 and stay at home. I have the experience panel. As long as I have enough time, I'll become an A-class martial artist sooner or later. I won't be afraid of him. Jiang Xi's eyes were abnormally firm. As long as he and Jiang Dudu didn't leave Zhenten Buden, they would be very safe. Zhenten Buden was the world's number 1 martial arts school. The founder, Xian Tian, was also the world's number 1 martial artist. No one dared to make a move within Zhenten Buden. There had been such an example in the past. That was when Zhenten Buden had just been founded not long ago. An A-class martial artist from another faction had killed his way to Zhenten Buden's martial arts community and killed a B-class martial artist from Zhenten Buden. Although he had gotten his revenge in the end, he had angered Xian Tian. Xian Tian had personally killed that A-class martial artist and destroyed the martial arts faction that he belonged to. His meaning was, if you kill one of my people, I'll kill all of yours. From then on, no martial artist dared to make a move in Zhenten Buden. Understanding this, Jiang Xi felt the pressure in his heart lessen by more than half. Of course, this was only the worst-case scenario. It was also possible that Feng Shaoqing's father had not been found to be the murderer. If that was the case, he just had to be more careful and keep a low profile in the future. Ouch, it hurts. Jiang Xi grimaced. After relaxing, he felt the tearing pain all over his body again. The blood flowing out of the ruptured blood vessels all over his body began to coagulate, causing the martial arts combat uniform to stick tightly to his skin. The skin exposed outside the combat uniform was clearly covered with many fine wounds. Although he had already digested the huge amount of spiritual energy from the dragon-patterned spirit fruit. But the injuries from when his body was about to explode were still there. His flesh, blood vessels, tendons, bones, internal organs, and all over his body had injuries of varying degrees. That was close. If that dragon-patterned spirit fruit had grown one more golden pattern, I might have exploded from the impact of the spiritual energy and died. Luckily, I'm not far from D-class now. My body's recovery ability is much stronger than before. At most, these injuries will be completely healed in a day, Jiang Xi thought to himself as he opened the experience panel. Level, Body Tempering E-Class, 5721650, Cultivation Technique, 9 Elements Mantra Martial Technique, 9 Elements Swordsmanship, Mastery 24018000, Wind Shadow Step, Mastery 148110000, Force Output, 3. 9 Experience Points, 2766. River Word had used half of the remaining 30% of his spiritual energy to upgrade the 9 Elements Sword Art. He couldn't favor one over the other. Currently, the panel showed that he was about to break through to the next level. He was 780 experience points away from reaching D-class. D-class corresponded to the bone-tempering stage of the 6 martial artist realms. At that time, his body would become even stronger. However, just based on my current level, my actual combat power has already reached C-class, and it's the top C-class. The symbol of a top C-class martial artist was that their speed exceeded the speed of sound. I just don't know if my speed has reached the level of a B-class warrior after the wind shadow step. Jiang Xi chuckled and shook his head, laughing at himself for being too greedy. With the help of an unripe dragon-patterned spirit fruit, in just 1 or 2 minutes, his actual combat power had surpassed a martial artist's by a large stage. From close to C-class to B-class. At this time, at the place where Feng Xiaocheng and the others died. Their blood, washed by the heavy rain, quickly became lighter and lighter. Half a minute after Feng Xiaocheng's death, not far from his body, the tactical communications watch on the wrist of a severed hand that was lying quietly on the ground suddenly vibrated. A message was automatically sent out. Da Xia Kingdom, Jianghai Prefecture. Different from the plains of Pak-Sen Province, there were more mountains in Jianghai Prefecture. However, there were no monsters in these mountains. Instead, there were many powerful martial artists living in these mountains. This was because after the spirit chi revival, the spirit chi in the mountains was much denser than in the cities. Bright Heart Mountain was an ordinary-looking mountain in the midst of a group of mountains. However, in the martial arts world of Jianghai Prefecture, Mingshan Mountain was very famous. Ordinary martial artists did not dare to approach it easily. This was because Mingshan Mountain was the place where the A-class martial artist Feng Xian cultivated. Chapter 71. Feng Xian was very strong. Even the Rank A Martial Artist Association president of the Jianghai Prefecture Martial Artist Association had to be courteous to him. Feng Xian was very mysterious. The martial artists in the Jianghai Prefecture only knew that Feng Xian was a Rank A martial artist, but did not know which faction he belonged to. Only a few high-ranking martial artists knew that Feng Xian's identity was not simple. He was one of the 13 most powerful directors in the Liberal Alliance. The Liberal Alliance was formed by martial artists from all over the world who worshipped freedom. Although the organization was loose, the number of martial artists was definitely the highest in the world. One could only imagine how powerful Feng Xian was. There was a luxurious manor at the peak of Mingshan Mountain in the Jianghai Prefecture. In the swimming pool, a thin middle-aged man floated cross-legged on the water, bobbing up and down with the waves. His eyes suddenly opened, and he took out his tactical communications watch in surprise. A message from Xiaocheng? In the next moment, his eyes were filled with rage and killing intent. Xiaocheng. Feng Xian's roar of grief and indignation echoed in the mountains. Boom. The water in the swimming pool poured out, and then it was instantly evaporated by Feng Xian's powerful aura, turning into mist that filled the surroundings. In the manor, the Feng family's martial artists and personal guards all rushed over. When they saw Feng Xian's angry scene, they were all terrified. Feng Xian stood in front of the evaporated swimming pool, and a 3-dimensional hologram popped up on his tactical communications watch. This was the Liberal Alliance's internal satellite network. Use the highest authority to search for Feng Xiaocheng in ruin number 09. His face was as cold as water as he gave the order. Yesterday, when Feng Xiaocheng was surrounded by beasts, he had asked him for help at ruin number 09. The hologram shook, and an intelligent voice sounded, "Search failed. No traces of Feng Xiaocheng found." No. How can there be no trace? Feng Xian was furious. He suddenly shouted, "Old Yuan!" An elderly rank B martial artist walked out from the personal guards. Old Yuan was terrified. He quickly walked forward and said, "This morning, Marble sent a message saying that he wanted to bring young master to other cities to train, where?" Feng Xian's eyes were sharp. "It seems to be ruin number 052. Old Yuan lowered his head. Feng Xian immediately ordered the hologram, "Search for Feng Xiaocheng in ruin number 052. Soon, light flickered and the Ari's voice sounded, "Search successful. Found traces of Feng Xiaocheng. Give me a detailed image." The light and shadow changed, and a virtual image was displayed. 4 corpses on the ground was in ruin number 10. Fear and bewilderment could still be seen in Feng Xiaocheng's eyes, which had been split into two halves. Xiaocheng. Such a scene caused Feng Xian's hair to stand on end. He roared towards the sky in grief and indignation. An invisible shockwave spread out from the powerful aura and sent the B-class Old Yuan flying. Old Yuan fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Xiaocheng. Xiaocheng. Search for Xiaocheng. Feng Xian was furious. There was no Xiaocheng among the four corpses. He had warned Xiaocheng not to leave Feng Xiaocheng's side. Feng Xian decided that if Xiaocheng was still alive, he would skin Xiaocheng alive. Search successful. Another image appeared in the hologram. A corpse was soaked in rain. There was a fatal wound on his chest. It was Xiaocheng. Xiaocheng is dead too? Even a rank C martial artist was killed in one move. The killer must be faster than the speed of sound. Who is the killer? I used to kill countless people in the wilderness. Many rank A and rank B martial artists have a grudge against me. These people don't dare to take revenge on me. They might transfer their hatred to Xiaocheng. Who could it be? Killer, find the killer. Feng Xian suppressed his grief and said to the hologram, with Feng Xiaocheng as the center, search for all rank A and rank B martial artists within a 100-kilometer radius. There are no rank A and rank B martial artists in the current area, the hologram said. None. Impossible. Feng Xian could not believe it. Less than a minute had passed since Feng Xiaocheng's death. Rank B martial artists could move at 3 times the speed of sound. Rank A martial artists could move at 5 times the speed of sound. If the killer was a rank A or rank B martial artist, it would be impossible for him to run out of the 100-kilometer radius in half a minute. Maybe the martial artist was hiding his strength. The level registered in the Martial Artist Association does not match his actual combat strength. Maybe he learned a high-level martial art technique. Feng Xian quickly deduced. He was like that himself. When he was young, he had used a high-level martial art technique to defeat someone stronger than him. Feng Xian suddenly raised his head and ordered the hologram, search for all rank C and rank D martial artists within a 100-kilometer radius. Display all rank E and rank F martial artists as well. Sir, you can't do that. The 4 major countries and the various martial artist alliances have an agreement that forbids large-scale surveillance of low-level martial artists in the wilderness. Old Yuan was shocked. He resisted the pressure to stop Feng Xian. My son is dead. I don't care about some bullshit agreement. If anyone tries to stop me, I'll kill them. Hurry up and get a transport plane here. Feng Xian's face was filled with murderous intent. Old Yuan trembled. He did not dare to say anything else and hurriedly left to carry out his task. The search this time took a little longer. 3 minutes later, the hologram's notification finally sounded. Search successful. There are a total of 1,265 martial artists in the current area. There are 8 rank C martial artists, 178 rank D martial artists, 1,079 rank E martial artists, and no rank F martial artists. In the hologram, densely packed miniature figures appeared. Among the rank E martial artists, one of them was Jiang Ci. After Jiang Ci returned to Pak Sn province from Ruin 0724, he had changed his martial artist rank to rank E at the Martial Artist Association. Of course, among so many martial artists, Jiang Ci was not eye-catching. Feng Xian's attention was not on the rank E martial artists. He said coldly, show me the information of the 8 rank C martial artists. The hologram shook, and the detailed information of the 8 rank C martial artists appeared. One of them was the dead marble. The murderer might be among these people. One of them is a top-notch rank C martial artist. He has the ability to kill marble instantly. He is the most suspicious. The other 6 rank C martial artists are also very suspicious. Maybe some of them are hiding their strength. Feng Xian quickly analyzed the situation. Soon, Old Yuan returned. Old Yuan, use all the power we have in the Liberal Alliance. Investigate. Turn these 7 rank C martial artists upside down. Don't let the remaining rank D and rank E martial artists go either. Investigate them thoroughly. Feng Xian's entire body emitted a cold aura. The surrounding temperature seemed to have dropped by a few degrees. Old Yuan looked at the hologram and kept quiet out of fear. He did not dare to disobey. He had followed Feng Xian for so long that he knew Feng Xian's temperament very well. He would rather kill 1,000 by mistake than let go of a single person. If it were not for the fact that these martial artists had too many martial artists behind them, Feng Xian might not have even bothered to investigate and would have directly killed them all. After a while, a black transport plane whistled as it landed on the peak of Mingshan Mountain. Feng Xian brought Old Yuan and his personal guards and quickly boarded the transport plane and flew towards Ruin 052. Chapter 72. The heavy rain did not last long. The rainstorm only lasted for about 10 minutes before it stopped. The sun rose, and a rainbow hung in the sky. At the highway toll booth of Ruin number 052, 4 corpses were still lying quietly on the wet ground. 2 blurry figures suddenly appeared. They were Zhong Shu and Ta Shi, who had just rushed over from Ruin number 09 after receiving the news. When the two of them saw Feng Xiaoqing's body, they looked at each other and their expressions were not good. They did not expect Feng Xiaoqing to die in just half a day. Then, they began to check the battle tracks at the scene. They went 2 kilometers away to check Marble's body. The murderer used a sword, and his speed was very fast, surpassing the speed of sound. That's the speed of a B-class warrior. Ta Shi stood in front of Marble's body. He deduced this based on the inertia of Marble's body when he was killed. According to Boss Feng's information, there are no A-class or B-class warriors within 100 kilometers. It seems that the murderer is most likely a top-notch C-class warrior, and his speed is just right. Zhong Shu nodded. Then, he sighed. It's a pity that the rain just now was too heavy. It washed away a lot of the battle tracks, and we can't see the murderer's direction of escape. Boss Feng is going crazy this time. He only had this one son when he was old, and he had been carefully hiding him in the city, not daring to let him out. Now that he finally dared to let him out, he didn't expect him to die in his first trip into the wilderness. Ta Shi shook his head. That's what I'm worried about as well. No matter what, we can't let him go crazy. This is a critical moment where the situation is about to change. The Freedom Alliance's plan can't be affected because of him. Later, we must persuade him properly. Zhong Shu's expression was serious. Soon, a black transport plane flew over from the horizon. Feng Xian had arrived. The two of them quickly went up to greet him. Feng Xian got off the plane with a sorrowful expression. He walked straight to Feng Xiaoqing's body, and the coldness emitting from his body became more and more intense. Boss Feng! Zhong Shu shouted in a deep voice. Feng Xian was silent. He squatted down and carefully put Feng Xiaoqing's head back together. Then, he carefully reconnected Feng Xiaoqing's 2 severed hands. After doing all this, he stood up. At this moment, he was actually expressionless. He was no longer as grief-stricken as before. Zhong Shu and Ta Shi looked at each other. They were both worried. Being expressionless was the most terrifying. Zhong Shu, Ta Shi, my son is dead. He was my only son. I'm already standing at the peak of the martial arts world. I'm afraid that the chances of having children in the future will be very, very small. There was a moment of silence. I know what you're trying to tell me. Don't worry, nothing I do will affect the Liberal Alliance's plan. There was no emotion in Feng Xian's voice. It was as if he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him. Zhong Shu and Ta Shi were relieved. Boss Feng, we just analyzed the situation at the scene. Then, the two of them told him about their deductions about the murderer. We can confirm that the murderer's speed exceeded the speed of sound. He is at least a top-grade C martial artist. Zhong Shu said in a low voice. Ta Shi also said, Boss Feng, didn't you say that there was a top-notch C-class warrior in Ruin 052? Is he the murderer? Feng Xian shook his head. It has been confirmed just now. That top-notch C-class warrior has an alibi. He was hunting monsters at that time, and many people saw him. From the looks of it, someone is indeed hiding his strength. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that the murderer is a grade A or grade B martial artist. Before he attacked, he deliberately removed the positioning equipment on his body, causing the Liberal Alliance's satellite to be unable to find his traces. After all, there are many people who hate me. As he spoke, his gaze turned cold. Since that's the case, we can use this matter to divert the other forces' recent investigation of the Liberal Alliance. Zhong Shu and Ta Shi were a little confused. How to divert? Feng Xian said sternly, Yuan Ju, spread the news. Old Yuan, spread the news. I want a reward for the murderer, no matter who it is, as long as they can provide accurate information about the murderer, I will reward them with a grade B Fey medicine. Or, if someone can bring the murderer's corpse to me, I will reward them with a grade A Fey medicine. I want this bounty to spread throughout the world's martial arts world. Since the murderer deliberately hid his strength, from today onwards, he will not be able to eat or sleep in peace. His mind will be in a tense state. Sooner or later, he will expose his identity under this kind of pressure. The words caused Zhong Shu and Ta Shi to be startled. A grade A Fey medicine was worth at least 300 billion yuan, while a grade B Fey medicine was worth at least 30 billion yuan. Moreover, there was no market for them. Even the Liberal Alliance did not have many in stock. Only a powerhouse with a high status like Feng Xian was qualified to obtain them. A Fey medicine was different from a body-strengthening medicine. As long as one reached the corresponding strength, after consuming it, one's martial arts rank would be directly increased. For example, a grade A Fey medicine could allow a grade B martial artist to directly advance to grade A. Moreover, this kind of advancement would not cause harm to the body and would not sever the martial arts path. Although Zhong Shu and Ta Shi were grade A martial artists, the Fey medicine still had a strengthening effect on their bodies. But in the next moment, their eyes lit up. This was because Feng Xian's bounty was too wonderful. The Liberal Alliance had been brewing a plan, which had caused many martial artist factions to secretly target and investigate the Liberal Alliance. If this bounty was released, it was conceivable that it would disrupt many people's attention and confuse them with the bounty. Although the Liberal Alliance would be watched by the entire world, as the saying went, the darkness under the light was dark. Those factions that were secretly targeting and investigating the Liberal Alliance would overlook many things because of this. New Moon Era Year 92, November 1st, 6:30 a.m. News of a bounty quickly spread throughout the world's martial arts world. The bounty came from one of the 13 directors of the Liberal Alliance, a top grade A powerhouse, Feng Xian. Bounty content: find Feng Xiaoqing's murderer. Characteristics of the murderer: 1. At least has the combat power of a top grade C martial artist. 2. Excels in speed and surpasses the speed of sound. 3. Uses a sword. Rewards: 1. Provide accurate information on the murderer. Reward: a grade B Fey medicine. 2. Kill the murderer. Reward: a grade A Fey medicine. Pak Sn Province, Zhenten Buden. After Jiang Dudu woke up, she yawned and turned on the television in the living room. The volume was very loud and she just played it there. She didn't do it to watch television. She just wanted to make this empty villa sound more lively so that it wouldn't seem too lonely. Stinky Jiang Ci. You haven't answered my calls for 2 days. Come back and wait for me. She grumbled to herself. It was a subconscious action. She had repeated this sentence many times. After washing up, she started eating breakfast. The heated milk was very nutritious when paired with the tendons of the grade F monster, the ironhide bull. After eating and drinking good food every day, Jiang Dudu had already transformed from a bean sprout into a juicy little girl. Next is an urgent news broadcast. Early this morning, the Liberal Alliance announced a grade A Fey medicine worth 300 billion. Jiang Dudu didn't hear the whole thing from the television. She only heard the final number, 300 billion. Fart. Jiang Dudu spat out a mouthful of hot milk and widened her eyes. 300 billion. 300 billion. 300 billion. After a while, Jiang Dudu recovered from her shock. 300 billion. How long will it take for Jiang Ci to earn so much money? Even if you sell Jiang Ci, it won't be worth this price, right? Stinky Jiang Ci. You haven't answered my calls for 2 days. Come back and wait for me. Chapter 73. Jiang Dudu was not the only one who thought so. At this moment, this bounty had spread all over the world through major news media and online channels. Even ordinary passers-by were talking about this matter. The whole world was in an uproar. At the same time, in the resting area of the Northern Mountain Army camp, Wang Dalong, Liu Hao, and Tian Chenfeng had returned on the Zhenyi Army's transport plane. As the train back to the city had not arrived yet, the three of them were resting in the temporary dormitory, when the news of the bounty issued by the Liberal Alliance spread all over the world. In the resting area, there was an uproar of shock. For a moment, all the martial artists were discussing this matter loudly, and the entire resting area became very lively. Wang Dalong and the other two held their breaths and looked at each other. They were also shocked by this news. Unlike the others, they were also a little confused because the person who was killed was Feng Xiaocheng. Coincidentally, they had been chased by Feng Xiaocheng's bodyguards the day before. Wang Dalong immediately used his tactical communications watch to access the Zhenten Buden's intranet and entered the Xiantian forum. At this time, the major chat groups in the Xiantian forum were exploding with messages. Everyone was talking about this matter. After some understanding, Wang Dalong's eyes flashed. He took a deep breath and said, according to reliable sources, Wan Qing of the Bloodthirst Squad was killed together with Feng Xiaocheng. Wan Qing, Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng were shocked. What about the other members of the Bloodthirst Squad? Liu Hao asked. Their bodies were not found at the scene. We don't know if they are dead or alive. The three of them suddenly fell silent. Good at speed and using a sword. Could it be Jiang Xi? Liu Hao was a little hesitant. Tian Chenfeng nodded slightly. Jiang Xi occupied two of the three characteristics of the bounty. Wang Dalong thought for a while and shook his head. Impossible. Although Jiang Xi is good at speed, his speed is only at the top of Class D compared to the speed of sound. He is still far from it. Besides, Marble is a Class C martial artist. Jiang Xi is a genius, but it is impossible for him to increase his actual combat strength to the point where he can kill a Class C martial artist in just one night. Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng looked at each other. Of course, they knew what Wang Dalong said. However, the reward offered by the bounty made them involuntarily think in this direction. An A-grade or B-grade Fey potion. As long as he could get one, he wouldn't have to worry about it for the rest of his life. He might even have the chance to reach the peak of martial arts. Why don't we contact Jiang Xi and ask? Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng were looking forward to it. No. Wang Dalong flatly refused. His eyes were like torches as he stared at the two and said, at this time, no one is allowed to contact Jiang Xi. Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng fell silent again. After a while, the two of them suddenly smiled bitterly. I'm sorry, Captain. I was possessed. Liu Hao shook his head as if he had woken up. Me too. Tian Chenfeng also let out a long sigh. Wang Dalong sighed. It's not just you guys. I had the same thought just now. There's no other way. No one can remain calm in the face of such temptation. However, you must remember that Jiang Xi can't be the murderer. You guys can't tell anyone that Jiang Xi is good at speed. Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng laughed. No one will believe it even if we tell them. How long has Jiang Xi been a martial artist? It's only been 4 months. No matter how good he is at speed, it's impossible for him to reach the speed of sound in such a short time, right? The three of them laughed at the same time. As for what they were thinking, only they knew. Ruin number 052, a dilapidated commercial and residential building. In a suite on the top floor, Jiang Xi sat cross-legged on the floor, meditating. He had also seen the news about the bounty. At first, he was worried, flustered, shocked, and suspicious. But soon, he thought about it and felt relieved again. This was because Feng Xian definitely hadn't confirmed the murderer. Otherwise, he wouldn't have put in so much effort to post a bounty. Jiang Xi's only worry now was whether Wang Dalong and the rest would link it to him. This was because Wan Qing from the Blood Massacre Squad had died together with Feng Xiaocheng. In addition to the 3 characteristics of the murderer, he had 2 of them. What if Wang Dalong and the rest were tempted by the huge bounty and told Feng Xian about him? Jiang Xi knew very well that he was the murderer. He couldn't be investigated at all. After thinking about it and being paranoid, Jiang Xi found that his emotions were getting more and more chaotic. He simply stopped thinking about it and entered a state of cultivation. After circulating the 9 Elements Heart Sutra for 3 cycles, his heart finally calmed down completely, and his thoughts became clearer. It was as if his soul had gone through a baptism and was firmer. Jiang Xi opened his eyes and smiled gently. He was very calm. Now, no one knows that my speed has surpassed the speed of sound. In the eyes of the captain and the rest, my speed is at most a top D-class martial artist, barely reaching C-class. It's far from the speed of sound. So, even if the captain and the rest have doubts, there's no evidence to prove that I'm the murderer. In that case, there's even less to worry about. I just have to pay attention to hiding my actual combat strength and speed in the future. I can't even use the wind shadow steps easily anymore. I have to hide it as much as possible. At this moment, his tactical communications watch vibrated gently. He opened it and saw that it was a call from Jiang Dudu again. Since yesterday, Jiang Dudu had called many times. But at that time, he was either running for his life or killing someone. He didn't have time to answer the call. Of course, Jiang Xi didn't answer the call immediately, because his face was now covered in blood and looked very ferocious. He couldn't let Jiang Dudu see him like this. Otherwise, the little girl's mood would definitely skyrocket. Jiang Xi climbed to the roof and glanced around. He saw that there was a puddle of water on the roof. The storm had stopped not long ago, so the puddle of water on the roof had yet to dry up. Jiang Xi hurriedly used the puddle of water to wash the blood off his face. However, his tattered combat uniform and the bloodstains all over his body couldn't be cleaned. He examined himself carefully and found that the ruptured blood vessels on his face had mostly healed. If he didn't look carefully, he wouldn't be able to see it, only his flesh and bones still hurt faintly. His injuries had yet to heal. After he finished examining himself, Jiang Xi used his tactical communications watch to call back. In less than a second, Jiang Dudu picked up the call. A miniature virtual image of Jiang Dudu popped up on his tactical communications watch. Jiang Xi, why didn't you pick up my call? Why didn't you return my call? Give me a reason. Jiang Dudu exploded in anger the moment the call connected. I've been fighting monsters. Jiang Xi moved his tactical communications watch a little further away and prepared to receive a roar. But he didn't expect that Jiang Dudu would fall silent. She suddenly calmed down, and her anger instantly disappeared. Because she noticed Jiang Xi's current situation. His combat uniform was covered in blood, and his face was a little pale. Are you injured? Jiang Dudu asked softly. No, this is all monster blood. Jiang Dudu fell silent again. After a while, she said, Oh, then when are you coming back? I'm preparing to train alone in the wilderness for a while. Then you have to be careful. If you die in the wilderness, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Don't worry, I'm very strong now. Bullshit. The two of them chatted for a long time. In the end, they hung up only when Jiang Dudu was about to leave for school. Chapter 74. After dealing with Jiang Dudu, Jiang Xi felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. The feeling just now was as if he had come face to face with a two-headed devil wolf. However, the pressure in his heart was completely released after chatting with Jiang Dudu. His whole body was relaxed without any pressure. Standing on the roof of the tall building, he looked at Ruin 052. For a moment, Jiang Xi was filled with ambition. From today onwards, he was considered a high-level warrior in the human martial arts world. A top-notch C-class warrior. Among the warriors that Jiang Xi knew, for example, the deputy head of the Pak-Sen province branch of Genten Buden and the captain of the Pak-Sen province's first law enforcement team, Lu Shan, was a warrior of this level. Lu Shan was also one of the top 10 warriors in the entire Pak-Sen province's martial arts world. In other words, Jiang Xi's actual combat power was also one of the top 10 in Pak-Sen province. Of course, a few months ago, When Lu Shan killed Qiao Wanqiang of the Qiao clan biological group, it was suspected that he had broken through to B class. If this news was true, Jiang Xi knew that he was definitely not a match for Lu Shan. He had the combat power of a top-notch C-class warrior mainly because of two high-level martial arts techniques, the 9 elemental swordsmanship and the wind shadow steps, which had already reached the microscopic realm. His current strength level was only E-class, which was still a distance away from D-class warriors. High-level martial arts techniques are very rare and difficult to cultivate. Warriors below C-class rarely have the chance to come into contact with high-level martial arts techniques. Even if they have the chance, they won't choose it. In fact, most martial artists use beginner and intermediate martial arts techniques. There are even many F-class martial artists who use martial arts techniques such as basic fist techniques. For example, the captain, Wang Dalong, a veteran D-class warrior, uses intermediate martial arts techniques. He can contend with C-class monsters by relying on the fact that he is close to the Unity realm. I was able to obtain the 9 elemental swordsmanship and wind shadow steps because of the terms of the contract given by Genten Buden. Coupled with the fact that I have the experience panel, I'm not afraid of the difficulty of training. Thinking of this, Jiang Xi opened the experience panel again and checked it. Level, Flesh Tempering Grade E, 5721650. Cultivation Method, 9 Elements Heart Method. Martial Skill, 9 Elemental Swordsmanship, 2401800. Wind Shadow Steps, Refinement 148110000. Power Output, 3, 9 Experience, 2766. I still need 780 EXP to reach D rank. Right now, my actual combat power is at the peak of C rank. I wonder if my actual combat power will break through to B rank when I reach D rank. Next, during this period of time when I'm training alone, I'll work hard and see if I can achieve my goal. Jiang Xi was looking forward to it. According to the information, the strongest monster in Ruin 052 was a Class B, and there were no Class A monsters. The truly dangerous place was Laoshan Lake, which was about 30 kilometers away from Ruin 052. Laoshan Lake was one of the 5 major freshwater lakes in Da Xia before the Spirit Qi revival. After the Spirit Qi revival, the aquatic creatures living in it underwent a large-scale evolution. The entire Laoshan Lake became extremely dangerous, and it was rumored that there were Class A monsters living there. Of course, Jiang Xi wouldn't be so stupid as to run there. It was enough for him to train in Ruin 052. With his current strength, he was like a fish in water here. At noon, Jiang Xi checked his injuries again. They were basically healed. Jiang Xi did not waste any time. Standing on the roof of the building, he picked up the binoculars and started searching. 3 kilometers to the northwest, there's a Class D sword horn mountain goat. There are more than 30 Class E and F sword horn mountain goats around it. My first target will be them. With that, Riverward leaped up from the rooftop and jumped onto the tall building opposite him. He quickly ran towards the sword-horned goat. While running, he deliberately controlled his speed and only used half of it. It was about 200 meters per second, the speed of a normal Class C warrior. This was enough to deal with the Class D sword horn mountain goat. More than 10 seconds later, Jiang Xi was like a gust of wind. He appeared beside the sword horn mountain goat from the roof of a building on the side of the street. Roar! A Class D sword horn mountain goat that was nearly 3 meters tall. It let out a thunderous roar. It shook its head, and its horns that were as long as swords buzzed. It charged toward Jiang Xi at an extremely fast speed. Behind it were more than 30 Class E and F sword horn mountain goats. They were much smaller, and the momentum they made when they charged over was also very shocking. The sword horn mountain goat is a delicious food. To be able to survive in Ruin 052 surrounded by monsters until now, it's definitely not simple. I can't be careless. Jiang Xi was very calm. Facing the menacing D-grade sword horn goat, he lightly slid his feet and used wind shadow steps. In an instant, his figure became blurry and unfathomable. Whoosh! The slaughtering shadow sword drew a sword flower. The body of the sword flickered under the sunlight, and suddenly the sword pierced out. It was as fast as lightning. Quick sword. His power erupted in an instant. Voila! Following Jiang Xi's footsteps, the blade of his sword landed on the D-grade sword horn goat's abdomen, slicing open a large wound and causing its internal organs to spill out. Baa! The sword-horned goat let out a sorrowful cry. It rushed forward a few dozen meters and prostrated itself on the ground. Jiang Xi was very decisive. With a light step, he lifted his sword and ended its life. You have killed a rank D sword horn goat, EXP plus 50, only then did the herd of goats reach him. A group of E-class and F-class monsters were not worth mentioning. Jiang Xi was like a butterfly flitting through flowers. Amidst the roaring beasts, he agilely moved and attacked with his sword. You have killed a rank E sword horn goat, EXP plus 30, you have killed a rank F sword horn goat, EXP plus 10. In less than a minute, more than 30 goats had all fallen to the ground. More than 400 EXP gained. Immediately, Jiang Xi quickly chopped off the horns of the rank D sword horn goat. Then, he took 2 large goat legs for lunch and left without looking back. In less than 2 minutes, a group of bloodthirsty mastiffs, led by a rank C red flaming hound, rushed over. They had been eyeing the goats for a long time, but they did not have a chance. Now, their chance had come. The group of bloodthirsty mastiffs rushed to the goats' carcasses and ate them. In the distance, on top of a tall building, Jiang Xi watched all this quietly. He had the ability to deal with the rank C red flaming hounds below, but he did not go down to hunt them. It's better to be safe. If someone sees me while I'm hunting, I'll be in trouble. It had only been half a day since the Liberal Alliance issued the bounty, and it was still very popular. Once he exposed his strength as a rank C martial artist, he would definitely be the focus of attention. With a cautious attitude, Jiang Xi only hunted those rank D monsters for the rest of the hunt. His EXP increased steadily. At night, Jiang Xi ate monster meat to replenish his body's energy. Then, he used the interface to increase his level and martial arts EXP. It was worth mentioning that after eating the unripe dragon spirit fruit, as his martial arts level had not yet broken through, although his body and spiritual consciousness had been strengthened to a certain extent, the maximum amount of EXP he could receive each time he used the interface to increase his EXP was still 50 EXP. The reason why I leveled up so quickly before was because I had a large amount of spiritual chi in my body to support me. It could replenish the consumption caused by the rapid leveling up. And the increase of my spiritual chi has not broken through the limit. I can only break through this limit when I reach rank D. Chapter 75. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. The moon rose and the sun set. The sky gradually darkened. Ruin 052, on a half-collapsed viaduct. River Word was like a bolt of lightning, meeting a D-class lightning cat demon head-on. The slaughtering shadow sword swept across and cut it in half. You killed a Class D lightning cat demon. Experience plus 50, his movements were as smooth as flowing water. He was extremely skilled. After harvesting the monster materials, Jiang Xi jumped down from the viaduct and ended the day's hunt. Ruin 052, a commercial center. The word's heart could be vaguely seen on the dilapidated building. This was where Jiang Xi rested for the past few days. He was very familiar with this place as he had been here many times in his previous life. In a hidden kitchen of a restaurant, Jiang Xi grilled blood-tusk wild boar meat and began his training for the day. Jiang Xi wiped his saliva as he smelled the appetizing aroma of the grilled meat. I can break through to Class D today. Experience increased by 50 points. Jiang Xi said in his heart. Very quickly, a familiar feeling of hunger appeared in his stomach. Riverward grabbed a huge pig leg and started to chew on it. The pork leg came from a Class D blood-tusk wild boar. The meat was firm and chewy. Even without any seasoning, it was enough to make one salivate. After eating the entire pork leg, Jiang Xi patted his stomach in satisfaction. At the same time, his body finally achieved a critical breakthrough. His flesh and blood trembled slightly. During the day, when he was hunting monsters, the small wound on his body disappeared in the blink of an eye. Flesh-tempering realm of martial artist 6 realms, mastery. From Class E to Class D, mastery of flesh-tempering realm, To bone-tempering realm, bones will become harder and harder. Bones will be like iron, and in the end, I will not be afraid of small firearms. Jiang Xi's eyes shone as he clenched his fist. Buzz. His muscles trembled as a powerful force shook the air. Whoosh whoosh, Jiang Xi stood up again and moved a few steps in this small space. His entire body was like a phantom, and his speed and agility had obviously increased. Jiang Xi shook his head. I'm much stronger than before, close to 2 times the speed of sound. However, I still feel that my actual combat strength is still a little short of Class B. Half a month ago, he had briefly seen the battle between the A-rank martial artist named Tashi and the 3 B-rank Silver Moon demonic wolves. The strength of a Class B was even stronger than the strength and speed he was displaying now. He opened the experience panel. Level, Bonehoned Level D, 111000, Cultivation Method, 9 Elements Heart Method Martial Skill 9 Elemental Swordsmanship, 318180000, Wind Shadow Steps, 226110000, Power Output, 419 Experience, 24060. I can't be too greedy. It's only been half a month, and my strength has increased again. I should be invincible in the C class. I have 24060 experience points remaining. It's enough for me to use for a long time. It's time to go home. Yes, let's go home. Counting the days, it had already been a month since he came out. Now, Jiang Dudu would call him every day. She was getting more and more resentful. If he did not go home, she would probably go to heaven. New Moon Year 92, November 16th, dusk. At the entrance of Tongtian District, Zhenten Buden, Pak Sn Province. A group of people was waiting there. Jiang Dudu stood at the front, tiptoeing and stretching her head to look at the intersection. She looked anxious. Behind her were Jiang Sheng and Wang Dalong from the Mad Dragon Squad. Zhu Yang was also there. Why aren't they here yet? Jiang Dudu said to herself. Why aren't they here yet? Why aren't they here yet? No one disturbed the magic cycle. Jiang Sheng and Zhu Yang looked at each other and smiled. Obviously, they had seen Jiang Dudu's style. Wang Dalong, Liu Hao, and Tian Chenfeng remained silent. No one knew what they were thinking. After a while, a black MPV turned from the intersection. After the car stopped, Jiang Xi walked out of the car with a huge bag on his back. His combat uniform was in tatters and no longer resembled its original appearance. However, from afar, he looked much more energetic. His temperament was more solid. Uncle Jiang, Captain, Brother Yang, Brother Hao, Brother Feng. Jiang Xi went up and greeted everyone with a smile. Good, good. It's good that you're back. Jiang Sheng smiled with relief. He was more and more satisfied with Jiang Xi now. After all, he was Jiang Xi's martial arts guide and teacher. The more outstanding Jiang Xi was, the more proud he was. The Mad Dragon Squad also smiled and chatted with Jiang Xi. They were very enthusiastic. However, Wang Dalong, Liu Hao, and Tian Chenfeng also secretly observed Jiang Xi's performance. They found that Jiang Xi was normal. The 3 of them looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief. The last trace of doubt in their hearts dissipated. In their opinion, Jiang Xi was just a young man who had just reached adulthood. If Jiang Xi was really Feng Shaoqing's murderer, no matter how strong he was, it was impossible for him to remain indifferent under the pressure of a huge bounty. Jiang Xi's current behavior was so natural. It could only mean that the murderer was not Jiang Xi. After greeting Jiang Sheng and the others, Jiang Xi smiled and walked to Jiang Dudu. The little girl was pouting and her head was turned to the side. Hey, I'm back. Mph, you still know to come back? Let's go home. After saying that, Jiang Dudu dragged Jiang Xi and turned to walk home. See you tomorrow. Jiang Xi waved goodbye to Jiang Sheng and the others. Tongtian District, Villa 92. After returning home, he saw a familiar scene. A table full of delicious dishes and a warm and comfortable environment. Jiang Xi's tense muscles instantly relaxed. The feeling of home. Take a bath first, then eat. Jiang Dudu ordered, almost putting her hands on her waist. Without her saying, Jiang Xi went to take a bath first. because he had not taken a bath for a whole half a month. If he did not count the time when he was running for his life at the bottom of Shinnon River, it would be a whole month. After washing up, he felt refreshed. Then, the two of them tacitly sat together and ate like they used to in the slums in Apricot Garden in the huge living room. The two of them ate and played as if nothing could affect them. Jiang Dudu, I have an important question. Jiang Dudu was a little nervous. Did you relax when I was not at home? How's your studies? How much did your martial arts training improve? What kind of important question is this? Strictly speaking, I'm your guardian. Of course, I have to care about these important questions. Haha. How much? First in the learning cohort, first in the martial arts cohort. Are you satisfied now? Brother? Dad? What guardian? Which one do you think is appropriate? Jiang Dudu sneered. River Word almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. This little girl had really ascended to heaven. I have another question. That vixen with the surname Han came to our house several times to look for you. What's your relationship with her? Why is she so shameless? Jiang Dudu suddenly asked. I'm innocent. I don't know her at all. Haha, I don't believe you. Chapter 76. For the entire day, the siblings were stuck on the issue of Han Ingxue. In the end, Jiang Xi promised to watch a horror movie with Jiang Dudu for a night. Therefore, when he went out the next day, Jiang Xi went out with 2 dark circles under his eyes. After seeing Wang Dalong and the others, everyone was very surprised. Jiang Xi, what did you do? Such big dark circles. Liu Hao was the first to ask. The 3 of them were in high spirits. Young man, you still have to pay attention to restraint. Although you're a martial artist and have a good body, no matter how strong your body is, there's still a limit, Wang Dalong said earnestly. Jiang Xi smiled bitterly and shook his head. With his current physical fitness, it was also a kind of ability to have dark circles under his eyes. It couldn't be helped. Just like what Jiang Dudu said, Jiang Xi was the most afraid of ghost. However, he couldn't say this out loud. It was embarrassing. They arrived at one of the VIP rooms in the office center of Genten Buden Building 1. The Mad Dragon squad met the old man, Li Qing, who collected monster materials last time. Old Li, you're young again. Wang Dalong was in a good mood. Because they had a great harvest this time. Not only did they earn a lot of money, but even their sworn enemy, the Bloodthirst squad, was gone. They came back in advance. After knowing that Wen Qing and Feng Xiaocheng were killed together, they secretly checked the whereabouts of the other members of the Bloodthirst squad. In the end, the information they received was that the Bloodthirst squad was most likely wiped out. I'm old. No matter how young I am, I can't compare to you real young people. Li Qing laughed. Being teased by Wang Dalong like this, he was not angry. He knew that the Mad Dragon squad must have a great harvest this time. Therefore, he smiled and said, if there's any good stuff, don't hide it. Take it out and let us have a look. Wang Dalong, Jiang Xi, and the others looked at each other and smiled. They took the backpacks full of monster materials to the table for appraisal. This time, there were not many things, but they were all good stuff. Most of them were D-grade monster materials, and a small portion were E-grade monster materials. The few of them had already calculated the price. These monster materials were worth about 650 million. Li Qing didn't push down the price like last time because the Berserk Dragon Squad was no longer the same as before. They were selling good stuff. In the end, the purchase price given was about the same as what everyone had in mind. 640 million. Old Li, at least you know what's good for you. So you're very lucky to be able to see this big guy. It's even bigger than last time. Wang Dalong laughed. Li Qing's eyes lit up. Wang Dalong opened his backpack as if he was presenting a treasure. He took out a complete piece of goldback blue wolf skin and laid it on the appraisal table in front of him. The entire back of the skin was golden in color, while the rest of the skin was pale green. Even though it was just a piece of skin, it still exuded an intimidating aura. After the test results came out. Hiss. C-class goldback blue wolf. Li Qing sucked in a breath of cold air, completely stunned. It was even more valuable than the shadow-flying leopard skin from last time. Old Li, I'll set the price this time. Let's not talk about anything else. 800 million. If you can do it, then do it. If you can't, then we'll do the same as last time. Wang Dalong smiled faintly and said in a firm tone. Hearing this, Riverward gave up on the idea of standing out to bargain. C-class goldback blue wolfskin was about the same price. Li Qing was very helpless. He was firmly controlled by Wang Dalong. In the end, the Mad Dragon squad earned a total of 1.44 billion new moon coins. Jiang Ci and Wang Dalong each got 30%, so each of them got 432 million. Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng each got 20%, so each of them got 288 million. After calculating, other than Jiang Ci, the three of them had only stayed in the wilderness for half a month. To earn so much in half a month, it could be said to be a huge harvest. Especially Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng. Their harvest this time was equivalent to the sum of their previous 10 years' income. It might even be more. The four of them were grinning from ear to ear. When Li Qing finished paying the bill and was about to leave, Jiang Ci stopped him. Uncle Li, don't be in a hurry. There's still something else. Oh. Li Qing turned around, his face full of surprise. Under normal circumstances, the team leader was in charge of trading monster materials in a warrior squad. It was rare to see the team members speak. Jiang Ci took out his backpack and said, "These are the monster materials I hunted when I was training alone." Whoosh! The specially processed monster materials were all poured out and soon filled the entire appraisal table. Silence. Not only Li Qing, but even Wang Dalong and the others were stunned. Wang Dalong and the others knew that Jiang Ci must have collected monster materials when he was training alone. They did not expect that there would be so many, and they were all D-class monsters. There was not a single E-class or F-class monster. Li Qing's eyes widened as he appraised the monster materials. D-class red flaming dog, D-class ironhide bull, D-class blue fire wolf. A few minutes later, the appraisal was completed. A total of 214 D-class monster materials, worth a total of 760 million new moon coins. After Li Qing finished speaking, he took a few deep breaths to calm down. Even though he dealt with monster materials every day, he had never seen someone like Jiang Ci. All the monster materials came from D-class monsters. Moreover, these D-class monsters were extremely difficult to hunt. Ordinary D-class warriors might not even be able to deal with them one-on-one. Usually, only small teams of D-class warriors would hunt these monsters. Little Jiang, did you hunt all these alone? Li Qing's tone was not very sure, so he confirmed it again. Wang Dalong and the others also looked at Jiang Ci. They had also recovered from their shock. Jiang Ci smiled lightly with an indifferent expression. Yes, I killed all of them. It took me a lot of effort. Wang Dalong, Li Qing, and the others felt that this was the most pretentious thing they had ever heard. However, Jiang Ci did not feel that way. These words were already very modest. That was because he had spent a long time picking them out. They were all valuable monster materials. In the past half a month, he had hunted too many monster materials and could not bring them all with him. More than half of them were left in the wilderness. This is the strength of a top D-class warrior. Li Qing suppressed his shock and looked at Jiang Ci. However, Wang Dalong asked in a low voice, "Jiang Ci, have you decided?" Last time at Ruin 0724, Jiang Ci had warned him not to reveal his actual combat strength to the outside world. Jiang Ci's expression was calm. It's not a good idea to keep hiding it. In the past, he wanted to live a few more days in peace and develop in a low-profile manner. However, the situation was different now. Previously, during the Martial Science College entrance examination, he was the first person in history to score full marks, shocking everyone. This information was definitely something that Feng Xian would be able to find out. If he deliberately hid his strength, he might be suspected. It was better to reveal part of his strength openly. As the first person in history to score full marks in martial arts, it was normal for his actual combat strength to reach D-class in just half a year. Moreover, The actual combat strength of a D-class warrior was still a far cry from the top C-class warrior that Feng Xian had offered a bounty on. This way, he could reduce the possibility of being suspected. Advance as a form of retreat. Jiang High Prefecture, Mingxin Mountain. There was an additional tomb in the forest behind the mountain. Feng Xian stood with his hands behind his back, quietly looking at the tombstone in front of him. He stood there for an entire day. Night fell. A B-class warrior dressed in black, the leader of the escort team, Old Yuan, passed through the forest at lightning speed and arrived in front of Feng Xian. "Sir." Old Yuan bowed. "How is it?" Feng Xian was expressionless. It can be confirmed that the 7 C-class warriors are not suspicious. Feng Xian fell silent. The most suspicious few had been eliminated, and it would be difficult to find the rest. This was because when Feng Xiaocheng died, there were only D-class and E-class warriors within a 100-kilometer radius. Moreover, there were many of them, more than 1,000 of them. Investigate the rest. If there are any talented warriors among them, focus on them. Feng Xian stared at Feng Xiaocheng's tomb, his gaze cold. Chapter 77. At noon, in order to celebrate the success of this trip to the wilderness, the Mad Dragon squad organized a meal. Cheers! In an elegant private room of a restaurant, the 4 of them raised their glasses at the same time. After the messy cups and plates, everyone quieted down and discussed the next step of the plan. Jiang Xi, there's still more than a month until the new year. I want to wait until the new year is over before going to the wilderness. That way, everyone can have a peaceful new year. Wang Dalong asked Jiang Xi for his opinion. After all, the Mad Dragon squad was different from before. Jiang Xi was the strongest person in the squad. I have no objections. After a busy year, it's a good time to relax. Jiang Xi smiled. His philosophy was to have a balance between tension and relaxation. If his mind was always tense, it would affect the efficiency of his training. More importantly, there was still 1.5 months until the new year. After the new year, he could not leave Jiang Dudu alone. Jiang Xi had long realized that due to the uniqueness of the 2 moons, the new moon era's calendar was the same as the old Da Xia kingdom's lunar calendar. For example, the new moon era's January 1st was equivalent to the old spring festival. In the afternoon, he returned to his home in Tongtian district. Jiang Dudu had not finished school yet. Only Jiang Xi was at home. However, Jiang Xi was not idle. He opened Zhenten Buden's internal website and entered the Xiantian shopping center to update his battle preparations. The last time he bought equipment, other than the C-grade killer shadow sword, was still intact. The other combat uniforms and backpacks had long become tattered. He probably could not exchange them for new ones. Although the killer shadow sword looks intact, there are many small wounds on the blade. It's also badly damaged. I'm afraid it won't last long. There aren't many martial artists like me who spend as much equipment as I do. Jiang Xi laughed at himself. Many martial artists only updated their combat equipment after a few years. Including this time, he had updated 3 times in half a year. In the end, Jiang Xi changed into a new C-grade combat uniform. He did not choose the B-grade one. Firstly, it was too expensive. Secondly, he was afraid of being discovered and arousing suspicion. After all, he had just revealed that his actual combat strength was D-grade. It would be too exaggerated to use B-grade combat equipment. His account balance was more than 1.2 billion. After purchasing the equipment, he still had 800 million left. I wonder how much are the Fey potions in the Xiantian's shopping center? Jiang Xi's heart stirred. He had tasted the sweetness of the Dragon Mark spiritual fruit's rapid improvement, but it was too dangerous. Fey potions were made using a special method to dilute Feys, so the amount of spirit qi contained was much lesser. If he used Fey potions to provide the spirit qi consumed by the panel, he would be able to rapidly increase his strength like before. Although it wasn't that big, it was definitely faster than him improving bit by bit every day. The sooner I reach grade A, the sooner I'll be able to resolve the crisis brought about by the bounty. As Jiang Xi pondered, he searched for Fey potions in the Xiantian's shopping center. 3D virtual light flickered, and a string of product information appeared. E-grade Fey potion, price $28 million new moon dollars, 1,024 sets in stock. D-grade Fey medicine, $280 million new moon dollars, 183 sets in stock. C-grade Fey medicine, price $2.8 billion new moon dollars, 37 sets in stock. B-grade Fey medicine, price $28.8 billion new moon dollars, 5 sets in stock. A-grade Fey medicine, price $288.8 billion new moon dollars, 1 set in stock. Jiang Ci went silent. Who set the price? It's so casual. He was speechless. However, the price was definitely high. For example, D-grade Fey potions were suitable for E-grade martial artists, and they could advance to D-grade after consumption. However, with the earning speed of E-grade martial artists, even if they didn't eat, drink, or spend money, they would still need 10 years to save enough money. Before Jiang Ci joined the Berserk Dragon team, E-grade martial artists like Liu Hao would only earn $20 million a year. Of course, this price was slightly lower than the market price. B-grade Fey potions cost $30 billion in the market, but it was $28.8 billion here. I have the experience panel, and the safest choice is to use B-grade Fey potions. There won't be any danger, and it can also satisfy the speed of my strength improvement. It's a pity that I lack so much money. I'm so poor. Jiang Ci shook his head helplessly. He still lacked $28 billion. With his current earning speed in the wilderness, he would need at least 1 year to earn that much money. It was too slow. I'm now D-grade, and my body's endurance has increased further. Using the panel, I can gain 100 experience points for each level, and double the amount for martial arts. The 9 elemental sword art and wind shadow steps can add up to a total of 200 experience points. After some calculations, using the experience panel, he would be able to increase his level again and reach C-grade in at most 4 months. At that time, no matter how he did it, his actual combat strength would still reach B-grade. Therefore, Jiang Ci temporarily gave up on using the Fey potions to increase his strength. In the following days, Jiang Ci also had a rare chance to relax. Of course, this kind of relaxation was relative. He didn't need to be as tense as when he was in the wilderness. Now, he would wake up every morning to cultivate the 9 elemental heart sutra. He would practice his swordsmanship in the afternoon and his footwork in the afternoon. At night, he would bring Jiang Dudu along to play around in Pakistan province. It was a rare happy day, and Jiang Ci also enjoyed this rhythm of life. During this period, the two of them also went to Luming District's Sunshine Palace district to visit Old Yang's family. Old Yang was also very happy to see the siblings. Their family's life had changed because of Jiang Ci. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Jiang Ci knew that this rhythm of life was about to disappear. Because Zhong Wei was on vacation and had to return from Shuntian Prefecture. Sour, I'm really sour. It's as if I ate a ton of lemons. I regret letting you go. I want to cry but have no tears. After receiving Zhong Wei at the Pakistan province airport, Zhong Wei was like pouring beans and talking non-stop. Although he was studying at Sunshine Budo Academy, he also paid attention to the news at home and knew that Jiang Ci's strength had increased especially in the past month. The news that Jiang Ci's actual combat strength had reached D-grade had already spread in Genten Buden, Pakistan province. You're not bad either. You're almost at E-grade, Jiang Ci said with a smile. He could see that Zhong Wei's aura had already reached the limit of F-grade. Sigh. Zhong Wei shook his head. Ha ha. Jiang Ci and Jiang Sheng laughed. Dinner was eaten at Zhong Wei's house. Zhong Wei's parents were very enthusiastic, and laughter could be heard throughout the meal. Everyone was listening to Zhong Wei talk about his life at Sunshine Budo Academy. I regret it. If I had known earlier, I would have gone to the wilderness with Jiang Ci to train after becoming a martial artist. In the College of Martial Arts, there are only a few captive monsters. There's no challenge at all. Zhong Wei kept complaining. Jiang Ci only smiled lightly. He could see that Zhong Wei was already working very hard. He was also a famous genius in Sunshine Budo Academy. His status was similar to Han Ingshue's in Hokuzen Budo Academy. Oh right, have you heard anything about Qiao Wei? Zhong Wei asked. Qiao Wei? Jiang Xi was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. This person seemed to be the first villain that he remembered. In the past, he was known as Beishan No. 1 martial arts genius. After Qiao Wei's father, Qiao Wanqiang, was killed by Lu Shan with a single slash, Qiao's biological group collapsed. Qiao Wei left Pak Sn province. He's also an influential figure in Shushan College of Martial Arts. In October this year, Qiao Wei also participated in the martial arts competition held by the 4 major College of Martial Arts in Asia. His strength is not bad, close to E grade. In the end, he got 4th place. Of course, not as high as me. I got 3rd place. Zhong Wei bragged. Amazing. Jiang Xi gave him a thumbs up. Qiao Wei? He had long forgotten. In the past, he was indeed very angry when they clashed. But now, half a year had passed. There was a huge gap between their statuses. If he went to find trouble with Qiao Wei, it would be degrading. The premise was that the other party did not actively seek death. Chapter 78. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of New Moon Year 92. It was the new year. Jiang Xi and Jiang Dudu finally had a good new year. They used to live in Apricot Garden, which was known as the slum of Luming district. Every new year, the two of them could not bear to eat and wear. Their lives were very tight. Now, it was different. Jiang Xi had become a martial artist. Their lives had undergone earth-shattering changes. Visiting friends and having fun became the main activities of the two of them during this period. Of course, Jiang Xi did not completely relax. He persisted in cultivating every day, and his strength steadily increased. New Moon Year 93, January 2nd, early morning, just after the new year. Jiang Xi was cultivating on the balcony on the 3rd floor of the villa. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. From afar, he saw a familiar figure appear in Tongtian district. Han Yingxue? She still looked clean and neat in her clothes. The bell bracelet on her right wrist rang clearly. Upon closer inspection, one would notice that she was more gentle and beautiful than before. Jiang Xi frowned slightly. His footsteps were light, and his figure disappeared from the balcony. At this moment, Jiang Dudu was preparing to go out and train in Zhenten Buden. Jiang Xi suddenly appeared in front of her. Jiang Dudu's face was full of confusion. She knew that Jiang Xi should be cultivating on the balcony at this time every day. Jiang Xi hesitated for a moment, then smiled and said, "If a guest comes later, just say that I'm not here." "Okay." Jiang Dudu tilted her head and looked at the door. She agreed readily. Jiang Xi's figure drifted and directly went into the underground cultivation room. Jiang Dudu was deep in thought. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door. Jiang Dudu got up and went to open the door. Then, her face instantly turned gloomy. She saw Han Yingxue standing in front of the door. "Hello, Dudu. We meet again. Is your brother home?" Han Yingxue smiled. "My brother said that he's not home." Jiang Dudu maintained her politeness. There was something wrong with those words. Although Jiang Xi had moved to the underground training room, his hearing was very good. When he heard Jiang Dudu's words, he almost spat out his saliva. "Jiang Xi, I saw you just now. Come out quickly. Didn't I just ask you to treat me to a meal? I won't eat you." Han Yingxue bypassed Jiang Dudu and shouted at the door. The veins on Jiang Dudu's forehead bulged. If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't beat this hateful vixen, she would have already punched her. In the underground training room, Jiang Xi sighed softly. He knew that he could not avoid it. Sigh, it's so hard to be a man. Then, Jiang Xi smiled and appeared in front of the two people who were confronting each other. "Oh, it's Han Yingxue. Long time no see." Jiang Xi's expression was very exaggerated. Han Yingxue did not care. She was still smiling and said, "Jiang Xi, you have to keep your word. I remember that you still owe me a meal. It's time to fulfill your promise, right?" Jiang Xi only felt a chill coming from the side. It was obvious that it was from Jiang Dudu. However, After thinking about it, Jiang Xi still smiled and said, "Okay, let's go now." Han Ningxue smiled like a flower and glanced at Jiang Dudu gently. Then, the two turned and left. Looking at the backs of the two people leaving, Jiang Dudu gritted her teeth and clenched her fists tightly. After a while, she snorted and went to Genten Buden. On this day, the equipment in the training center on the third floor of Genten Buden's building was destroyed by her. On the other side, Jiang Xi and Han Ningxue came to a restaurant located in a bustling commercial center in Pak-Sen province. The restaurant's environment was very good. It was fresh and elegant. There were many customers coming and going, but no one spoke loudly so as not to disturb others. Han Ningxue was very satisfied, relaxed, and happy. The two sat down in a private room and ordered a few dishes. "Jiang Xi, you are very special. Since I was young, you are the first boy that I am curious about and can't figure out." Han Ningxue was very direct. "Maybe it's because you haven't seen much." Jiang Xi buried his head in the food. The price here was very expensive. He was a little distressed now. He went to the wrong place. There was no other reason to treat Han Ningxue to a meal. He just wanted to make things clear. "That's true. Since I was young, there were very few boys who dared to approach me. No one was like you, speaking so directly." Han Ningxue chuckled. "I'm very poor." Jiang Xi suddenly raised his head. "It's okay. I have money." Han Ningxue's smile did not change. "I have a younger sister. I don't mind." "No, what I mean is, I only have eyes for my sister. I want to take care of her." "You like your sister?" "It has nothing to do with that. We depend on each other. We can't be separated in the future." Hearing this, Han Ningxue was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I understand. But I won't give up." Jiang Xi smiled helplessly. This girl was a little stubborn and one-track-minded. This restaurant was very famous in Pak-Sen province. Many people of high status often came here to spend money. At this time, two young men walked into the restaurant. One of them had a robust appearance, while the other had a handsome appearance. After seeing them, the lobby manager's eyes lit up. He quickly walked up to them. "Aya, young Master Han is here. Sorry for not coming out to greet you." The robust young man was Han Lei. He nodded slightly and said to the lobby manager, "Arrange a quiet place for us." The lobby manager quickly led the two of them to a private room in the restaurant. "Brother Lei, your Pak-Sen province is not bad. It's rare to see such an environment in Shuntian." The handsome young man smiled. His name was Qin Feng, from Shuntian Prefecture. He had known Han Lei since they were young. "You can't compare it like that. After all, there are many strong people in Shuntian. We have to be careful." Han Lei smiled. Soon, the two of them sat down in a private room. After the dishes were served, Han Lei raised his cup and smiled. "This time you came in a hurry. I didn't have time to prepare. Let's welcome you here." "Thank you." Qin Feng raised his cup. After drinking a cup, Han Lei shook his head and sighed. "I never thought that you would choose to enter the Genten Buden Heavenly Training Camp. Don't tell me you want to walk the path of martial arts." Qin Feng chuckled and said, "I know you look down on the current stage of martial arts, but you have to admit that Xiantian is a little different. The elders in my family also said that even if the world changes again, Xiantian will not be eliminated. He might be able to seize the next opportunity. That's why my family arranged for me to enter the Genten Buden Heavenly Training Camp. I want to experience the life of martial arts and observe Xiantian from a close distance." Han Lei's eyes moved slightly. The elders in his family had said something similar, but deep down, he looked down on the current stage of martial arts. However, Qin Feng's words made him start to reflect on himself. Seeing that Han Lei was silent, Qin Feng was not in a hurry. He looked around aimlessly. Suddenly, he saw Han Ningxue in a private room outside. "Hey, Brother Lei, isn't that Ningxue?" Han Lei also looked over and frowned. Seeing that Jiang Xi was sitting opposite Han Ningxue, he immediately became angry. He remembered that he had warned Jiang Xi not to get close to his sister. Now, the two of them were eating together, talking and laughing. Chapter 79. Who's the person opposite Ying Shui? Qin Feng asked with a smile, but there was a hint of viciousness in his eyes. He's just a poor beggar with some so-called martial arts talent. Maybe he wants to be a toad that wants to eat swan meat. Wait for me, I'll go get rid of him, Han Lei said with disdain. He wanted to matchmake Qin Feng and Han Yingxue. Qin Feng's family, like the Han family, had an extraordinary background. Both families wanted to rise again in this era. This time, he definitely couldn't let Jiang Xi ruin this plan. Let's go together. I also want to see who can chat with Ying Shui. Qin Feng's smile was very charming. If he became a celebrity, he would definitely be a heartthrob. A few women who passed by saw his smile and their eyes lit up. Qin Feng was already used to such gazes. He walked with Han Lei towards Jiang Xi and Han Yingxue. When they got closer, they heard Jiang Xi say, "You're not bad. You're pretty and have a good temperament," but Han Lei and Qin Feng's expressions immediately became even more unsightly. Han Yingxue was happy to hear Jiang Xi's words. Suddenly, she saw Han Lei and Qin Feng. Brother. She was slightly stunned. When she saw the two of them, the joy in her heart dissipated. Riverward's words were interrupted. He thought to himself, I haven't finished my words yet. He had his back facing Han Lei and Qin Feng. He turned around in confusion. After seeing who it was, Jiang Xi nodded at Han Lei. Hello. After all, they had met before. It was good to greet him. He didn't want others to say that he was rude. At the same time, Jiang Xi looked curiously at the handsome young man beside him. He was a little surprised. This handsome young man looked younger than Han Lei, but his aura was actually the same as Han Lei's. He was also a D-class martial artist. A youth who was even more talented than Han Lei. At this time, Han Lei's face was so twisted that it looked like water could be wrung out of it. He ignored Jiang Xi and squeezed out a smile. He turned to Han Yingxue and said, Yingxue, this is Qin Feng. We met when we were young. You used to play with him in Shuntian. Do you still remember? I remember. Hello, brother Qin Feng. Han Yingxue nodded. Hello, Ying Shui. Long time no see. You've become even more beautiful, Qin Feng said politely. Brother Qin Feng, you flatter me. Han Yingxue smiled and said to Han Lei, Brother, I'm having dinner with my friends. I'll treat you and brother Qin Feng alone when we get back. Unexpectedly, Han Lei made a surprised expression and said, Dinner with your friends? What friends? I didn't see them. Qin Feng also smiled and said, I didn't see them either. The atmosphere suddenly became cold. Han Yingxue was about to say something with a straight face. Jiang Xi stood up and said with a smile, Han Yingxue, it's about time. I have to go. I didn't say half of what I said just now. You're very outstanding, but love is a two-way street. As for Han Lei and Qin Feng's words, he didn't take them to heart. Why would he get angry with these idiots? It's not worth it. Han Yingxue's mood became low. She was rejected again and again. No matter how strong she was, she still suffered a big blow. I'll still say the same thing. I won't give up, Han Yingxue said with a firm expression. Jiang Xi shook his head helplessly. Then we'll meet again if fate wills it. He waved his hand and left. Looking at Jiang Xi's back, Han Lei and Qin Feng's expressions became even worse. Did that mean that Han Yingxue was chasing Jiang Xi? However, both of them were adults. They quickly adjusted their emotions. Han Lei said, Yingxue, you and Qin Feng haven't seen each other for many years. It's better to meet by chance. Let's sit down and have a chat. Qin Feng smiled gracefully. He looked very charming. Sorry, I'm not feeling well. I need to go back and rest. Goodbye. Han Yingxue was expressionless. She didn't look at the two of them again and left directly. Han Lei and Qin Feng were left frozen in place. The reason for her not feeling well couldn't be more obvious. Jiang Xi returned home humming a tune. He looked at the time. There was still an hour before lunch. He put on an apron and started cooking. 1 spicy pork trotter, 1 lamb with scallion, and 1 simple cold braised beef. That should be enough. Jiang Ci muttered to himself as he prepared the ingredients. The names of the dishes sounded ordinary, but the ingredients he used were not. The spicy pork trotter came from the leg of an F-grade blood tusk wild boar. The lamb with scallion was from an E-grade sword horn goat. The cold braised beef was also monster meat from an F-grade rock horn bull. He didn't choose high-grade monster meat because Jiang Dudu wasn't a martial artist yet. At most, she could eat some E-grade monster meat before she reached her body's limit. But even so, the meat of these low-level monsters helped Jiang Dudu develop a good body. It helped her improve her martial arts training and laid a foundation for her. After that, Jiang Ci was drooling as he cooked. Because he wasn't full at the restaurant just now. It looked quite high-end, but the price was exorbitant. The portions of the food were extremely small. Next time, he must not go to a restaurant like this with Jiang Dudu. Otherwise, he would be nagged for a long time. An hour later, Jiang Dudu finished her training at the martial arts center and came back for lunch. Seeing the appetizing dishes, Jiang Dudu felt better. But on the surface, she still snorted, washed her hands, and sat down to eat. He went out with another woman without saying a word. This behavior made her very angry. She decided not to talk to Jiang Ci for the whole day. At the dining table, no one spoke. In addition, the villa's dining room was very big. For a moment, the atmosphere was a little strange. The dishes were very fragrant, but Jiang Ci couldn't taste anything. Dudu, do you want to take some time to play in Jianghai? I heard that the scenery there is very good. Jiang Ci broke the silence. Jiang Dudu lowered her head to eat. Why don't you go to Luo City? Don't you admire Li Baibai? Maybe you can meet her there. How about Shu Mountain? It's close to Fengdu. Legend has it that it's related to the ghost city. Haven't you always wanted to catch a ghost as a pet? Maybe there really are ghosts. You can try your luck there. Jiang Ci had a headache after thinking carefully. He said seriously, Hanning Shua won't come in the future. Moreover, I really have nothing to do with her. Today's dinner is to make things clear to her. Really? Jiang Dudu suddenly raised her head. Of course it's true. When have I ever lied to you? Hehe, I don't believe you. It's absolutely true. Train with me in the afternoon and I'll forgive you. No problem. Jiang Ci breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, he could eat properly. In the afternoon, Jiang Dudu didn't go to the martial arts center. The two of them trained in the villa's underground training room. Then, Jiang Ci became a sandbag for the whole afternoon. Because Jiang Dudu didn't allow him to fight back. Of course, with Jiang Dudu's current strength, even if he didn't fight back, he wouldn't be injured. However, what surprised Jiang Ci was that Jiang Dudu's physical fitness had become stronger. Although there was no detailed test, Jiang Ci estimated that Jiang Dudu's martial arts talent should be close to 80 points. At the very most, Jiang Dudu had only trained for 4 months. However, although he was surprised, Jiang Ci was very satisfied with Jiang Dudu's speed of improvement. The faster she improved, the better. This way, he could rest assured and continue on the path of martial arts. Chapter 80. At night, Jiang Dudu did not bother Jiang Ci anymore. Her anger was long gone. Jiang Ci was alone, practicing his sword in the underground training room. The brand new C-grade killer shadow sword kept stabbing in his hand. One strike after another. The blurry sword shadow on the sword became thicker. Buzz buzz buzz, the speed of the sword became faster and faster, and the sound of the blade cutting through the air was heard. As he was practicing in his own house, he did not deliberately hide his swordsmanship level. No one could see it anyway. It had been 1.5 months since he returned from ruin number 052. With the EXP panel, his strength had improved significantly. Level, Bone-honed Union D-grade, 4701110000, Cultivation Method, 9 elements Heart Technique Martial Skills, 9 elements Swordsmanship, Refinement 788180000, Wind Shadow Step, Refinement 696110000, Force Output, 5, 95 experience points, 13767, 9 elements swordsmanship is about to reach the unity level. It's close to 6 times the force output. My actual attack power has reached B grade. Also, wind shadow step has improved greatly. My movement speed has reached 2 times the speed of sound, which is the standard of a B-grade martial artist. After 1.5 months of practice, his actual combat power had finally entered the B-grade martial artist ranks. While Jiang Ci was practicing his swordsmanship in the underground training room, someone knocked on Jiang Ci's door again. Jiang Dudu was watching a horror movie upstairs. She was very angry when she was suddenly disturbed. Han Ingxue had just come in the morning. Was that vixen here again? Didn't Jiang Ci say that the vixen would not come in the future? Jiang Dudu went to open the door with doubts. Uncle Lu? Lu Shan was standing at the door. A while ago, Lu Shan had specially guided her in martial arts training. The two of them had a good relationship. Jiang Dudu hurriedly invited Lu Shan into the house and politely offered to serve tea. Lu Shan waved his hand, indicating that there was no need. He asked, Dudu, is your brother home? He's practicing in the basement. Uncle Lu, are you looking for my brother? There's a small matter. Then I'll call him over. Haha, there's no need. I'll go find him myself. Oh, okay. Jiang Dudu thought about the upcoming plot of the horror movie and ran back upstairs. Lu Shan shook his head and chuckled. Under normal circumstances, when others saw him, they would address him as deputy head or senior Lu. Only Jiang Dudu kept addressing him as uncle. This actually made him feel close to her. Moreover, he did think highly of Jiang Dudu. After such a long period of contact, he found that Jiang Dudu's talent was also very high. Among the people he knew, she was second only to Jiang Ci. That was why he had taken the time to guide Jiang Dudu in her martial arts training. Lu Shan walked towards the underground training room. As he approached, his expression changed. He suddenly stopped and listened carefully. Buzz buzz buzz, a faint sword hum could be heard. The soundproofing of the underground training room was very good. If he could hear it from the outside, it meant that the sound inside was even louder. This sound, the frequency at which the sword vibrates the air, is very unusual. Could it be minute subtlety? Lu Shan was shocked. He suddenly remembered that after River Word signed the genius contract of the dojo and became a martial artist, he had chosen the 9 elemental sword technique. It was known as the most difficult high-level martial arts technique to master. Other than the creator of this technique, Li Bai, very few people could master it to the highest level. Last year, when Jiang Ci came back from the wilderness, his strength had reached Class D. At that time, I suspected that his swordsmanship was not bad. I didn't expect him to have reached such a high level. It seems that he is still hiding something. Lu Shan was shocked as he knocked on the door of the underground training room. Jiang Ci was also surprised to see Lu Shan. At the same time, he was puzzled. Lu Shan was the deputy head of the Pak-Sen province's Genten Buden. He was also the leader of the first law enforcement team of the Pak-Sen province's Law Enforcement Bureau. It was so late, but he still came personally. Could it be that something had happened? Senior Lu. Jiang Ci greeted him politely. Although he now had Class B combat strength and was not weaker than Lu Shan, his attitude towards Lu Shan was still the same as before. He was very respectful. Jiang Ci, your Juyuan sword technique has reached minute subtlety. Jiang Ci was slightly stunned. He did not expect Lu Shan to ask about this. I reached it a while ago. Jiang Ci nodded casually. He didn't try to hide it. Lu Shan must have heard it when he was practicing his sword earlier. Lu Shan only knew that his Juyuan sword technique had reached minute subtlety, but he did not know that he was close to unity. After getting Jiang Ci's personal confirmation, Lu Shan was even more shocked. It took him a while to recover. Jiang Ci, you are really a monster. Lu Shan sighed. Jiang Ci's face was full of black lines. Why did these words coming out of Lu Shan's mouth sound like he was scolding him? Senior Lu, you came looking for me because of this? Jiang Ci asked. Lu Shan shook his head. His expression became serious. Do you know Qin Feng? Qin Feng? Jiang Xi was stunned. He had just seen him during the day. He was very handsome and looked like a hypocrite. He told Lu Shan about this situation. Today, he is investigating you through the Martial Practitioners Inspection Bureau. It seems like he wants to harm you. You have to be careful, Lu Shan said in a low voice. Does he have a strong background? Jiang Xi grasped the main point. To be able to make Lu Shan personally come to warn him, it seemed like the other party had a strong background. Lu Shan nodded. Very strong. Now that your strength has reached Class D, there is no harm in telling you some of the secrets. Jiang Xi was immediately curious. He loved to listen to such secretive things. You should know about the Han family in Pak-Sen province. 100 years ago, when the world changed, the Han family played a big role in Pak-Sen province being able to stand firm despite being surrounded by monsters, Lu Shan continued. I heard about this from Uncle Jiang. Senior Lu, are you saying that the Qin family is a similar family? That's right. The Qin family's position in Shuntian Prefecture is similar to the Han family's position in Pak-Sen province. Or rather, they are slightly stronger. Are the Han family and the Qin family very powerful? Very powerful. They have been passed down for many years before the Spirit Qi revival. It was just that no one knew about them. It was only when the Spirit Qi revival and the world changed that they took action and turned the tide. Hearing this, Jiang Xi frowned. It would be troublesome to have a grudge with such a big family. You don't have to worry too much. Although Qin Feng is the leader of the new generation of the Qin family, he can't represent the Qin family. As long as the fight between the younger generation doesn't cause a big mess, the higher-ups won't care. Lu Shan saw Jiang Xi frown and said some words of comfort. Jiang Xi nodded slightly. That was right. Qin Feng was just a D-class martial artist. How could he represent a big family like the Qin family? Thank you for your reminder, Senior Lu. I will take note. Jiang Xi expressed his gratitude to Lu Shan. Although he was not afraid of Qin Feng, if it were not for Lu Shan's reminder, it might have become troublesome if they met in the future. Just like when he killed Feng Shaocheng, he was still very careful. It had been a long time since he practiced the wind shadow steps. He was afraid that others would discover his attainments in speed. After Lu Shan left, Jiang Xi did not continue practicing his swordsmanship. Instead, he sat there and pondered. It seemed that his understanding of this world was still very shallow. It was only a little bit. Hidden families like the Qin family and the Han family were very powerful, but very few people knew about them. Strength. Only by becoming stronger can I be fearless. I don't care if they are monsters or demons. I will destroy them with a sword. Chapter 81. New Moon Year 93, January 5th. The 4 members of the Berserk Dragon Squad gathered again and headed to the wilderness after being sent off by their family members. This time, everyone was more cautious and did not go to Ruin 09, which was one of the top 10 most dangerous cities. Although they had earned a lot of money in Ruin 09, the danger they faced was just as great. To Wang Dalong and the rest, with the current strength of the Berserk Dragon Squad, it would be easier for them to go to a level 1 ruin city. Their target this time was Ruin 073, which was 400 kilometers away from Pak-Sen province. Ruin 073 was close to Luocheng Prefecture and was also a flat area. The danger level was above average. According to the intelligence, the strongest monster there was a Class B monster. The 4 of them were not slow and soon, they arrived at Ruin 073. After resting for a while, they started to hunt monsters. In an abandoned parking lot, there was a herd of horned fireballs. They were the first target of the Berserk Dragon Squad. The leading horned fireball was a Class D monster. Its ferocious horn was 2 meters long and its body was more than 5 meters long. It was like a huge tank. Behind it, there were almost 100 Class E and F horned fireballs. When they galloped, they looked ferocious. In a level 1 ruin city, there will be more low-level monsters around the Class D monsters. It will be harder to kill them. With my current strength, I only need to use half of my swordsmanship and movement skills to deal with the Class D horned fireballs. With that thought in mind, Jiang Xi shouted, "Captain, you guys hold back the horde. Leave the biggest one to me." He had confirmed that the Berserk Dragon Squad was the main attacker. With the Killer Shadow Sword in hand, he dashed towards the Class D horned fireballs. The Class C Killer Shadow Sword was extremely sharp. With the boost of strength and speed, the power of the sword easily reached the level of a top Class D monster. Swoosh! The tip of the sword swept across the neck of the Class D horned fireball, leaving a big wound and blood splattering everywhere. At the same time, Jiang Xi changed his pace and flashed behind the horned fireball. He attacked again. Swoosh! In less than a second, he had stabbed more than 10 times and caused great damage to the Class D horned fireball. At the same time, Wang Dalong and the rest had not started fighting with the horde. They were shocked by River Word and were overwhelmed with shock. River Word had become stronger again. This D-Class 1 horned fireball, with its super strong defense and strength, was even harder to kill than some C-Class monsters. However, in front of Jiang Xi, he was powerless to fight back. Rumble. When the horde of beasts arrived, Wang Dalong and the other two had no time to think. They all took action to restrain the horde of single-horned fireballs. As for Jiang Xi, he was alone. Relying on his nimble movement technique, he circled around the D-Class 1 horned fireball and continuously attacked with his sword. A moment later, the gigantic D-grade single-horned fireball let out a mournful cry and crashed to the ground. You have killed a Class D single-horned fireball, EXP plus 50. After that, Jiang Xi didn't stop, and his figure flashed as he charged into the herd of 1-horned flameballs. The C-grade Shadow's layer sword emitted a buzzing sound, creating a misty sword shadow. It was as fast as lightning, landing on the bodies of the 1-horned fireballs. You have killed a rank E single-horned fireball, EXP plus 30. You killed a rank F single-horned fireball, EXP plus 10. You have killed a rank E single-horned fireball, EXP plus 30. Although Jiang Xi had only displayed a small part of his movement technique, the power of wind shadow steps still allowed him to perfectly dodge the crazy attacks of the herd of 1-horned fireballs. He didn't receive any damage from the herd. In addition, Wang Dalong, Liu Hao, and Tian Chenfeng were also attacking. Soon, the herd of nearly 100 E-Class and F-Class 1-horned fireballs was completely wiped out by the Mad Dragon Squad. After careful calculation, half of them were killed by Jiang Xi. Wang Dalong and the others didn't immediately go to harvest the monster materials. Instead, they looked at Jiang Xi and sighed. Every time I discover that Jiang Xi has become stronger, I suspect that we are not practicing the same martial arts as Jiang Xi. Liu Hao was very shocked. I remember that half a year ago, when Jiang Xi had just joined our Mad Dragon Squad, we were still thinking about how long it would take for him to reach rank E. But we didn't expect that in just half a year, not only did he reach rank E, his actual combat power has even surpassed the captain. Tian Chenfeng shook his head in disbelief. Looks like we are getting old. Wang Dalong sighed. Jiang Xi's expression was calm. He wondered if they would doubt their lives if he unleashed his full combat power. Something worth mentioning was that just yesterday, he had successfully raised the 9 elemental sword technique to the Unity realm. His strength had finally increased by more than 6 times, and his strength had increased by another step. For the sake of friendship, it was better to continue keeping a low profile. After harvesting the monster materials from the herd of 1-horned fireballs, the 4 of them didn't stop and turned to the next target. After half a year of training, they had a tacit understanding with each other. Their efficiency in hunting monsters was very high. Correspondingly, the speed of earning money was also getting faster and faster. Time passed, and very soon, half a month had passed. While the Mad Dragon Squad was crazily hunting monsters in Ruin 073. Pak SN Province, Gen 10 Buden. A grey transport plane drew a streak of light and stopped at the plaza in front of the 3 huge buildings of the dojo. A man who looked to be in his 30s walked out of the transport plane. There was a faint smile on his dignified square face. If one looked closely, they would notice that his eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life, which didn't match his age. On the plaza, the dojo master of the Gen 10 Buden, Chen Yuan, and the deputy dojo master Lu Shan of Pakistan province, had been waiting for a long time. When they saw the transport plane arrive, the two of them looked at each other and went up to welcome it. The person who came was called Lu Kuei. He looked to be in his 30s, but he was actually close to his 60s. He was one of the 12 deacons in charge of the daily affairs of the Genten Buden headquarters. The 12 deacons of the Genten Buden were all powerful A-class warriors. In other words, Lu Kuei was worthy of being welcomed by both of them. Old Chen, long time no see. You've been hiding in the Pakistan province. You're living a comfortable life. You don't have to run around. Lu Kuei laughed heartily. Chen Yuan smiled and said, "Why don't we switch places? You can be the dojo master of this branch, and I'll be the deacon in the headquarters." Ahaha, let's talk about this later. Let's talk about business. Lu Kuei changed the topic decisively. Chen Yuan didn't mind. He brought Lu Kuei to the dojo master's office in the first building. Lu Shan chuckled as he followed behind. He couldn't interrupt the banter between the two A-class warriors. In terms of strength and status, Lu Kuei, who was the deacon, was definitely stronger and had access to more resources. Of course, from Lu Shan's point of view, his superior, Chen Yuan, wouldn't be much worse. This was because Chen Yuan was younger and had the opportunity to break through to the A-class realm. As for the purpose of Lu Kuei's sudden visit, Lu Shan could guess it. As one of the 12 deacons of the Genten Buden, Lu Kuei's main task was to run the training camp in the headquarters. Genten Buden had 4 major training camps: Sky, Earth, Black, and Yellow. Every year, a certain number of geniuses would be recruited from the 7 major prefectures of Dacia country for training. The news that Genten Buden had a good seedling in Pakistan province had spread. Especially after the news that Jiangxi's actual combat strength had reached D-class, the other forces in Pakistan province's martial arts world had long been jealous. Lu Kuei was definitely here for Jiangxi. He just didn't know which training camp Jiangxi would be recruited to. Chapter 82. Building 1, Genten Buden, Pakistan Province, Head Chen Yuan's office. What Lu Shan could guess, Chen Yuan could also guess. He had already prepared everything. Chen Yuan directly called up a holographic projection and said to Lu Kuei, "This is all the information on Jiangxi." In the holographic projection, there were images that recorded Jiangxi's daily life and growth. It started from when Jiangxi rented a room in Apricot Garden, passed Lumming Junior High School's entrance exam, and returned from Ruin 052. Lu Kuei looked carefully and nodded from time to time. Why is there no record of his growth before the age of 13? Lu Kuei asked. Chen Yuan was not clear about this. He looked at Lu Shan. Lu Shan explained, "Jiangxi was born as a street child, so we can't find any records before that." Street child? Lu Kuei was surprised. Yes, and he has a sister. To be able to grow to this stage is very admirable. Lu Shan was a little emotional. Lu Kuei nodded approvingly and continued to look at the information. After a while, when he finished looking, he showed a satisfied expression and said, "Calculating the time, he should be 18 years old and has the combat strength of a D-class martial artist. And the time he really came into contact with martial arts is less than a year. This speed of improvement is worthy of being the first genius to get full marks in martial arts talent since the recovery of spirit chi." Chen Yuan and Lu Shan looked at each other. Then, which training camp is Senior Lu going to let Jiangxi enter? Lu Shan was concerned about this question. Lu Kuei frowned and said, "Before coming, I was going to let him enter the Earth-level training camp. But now that I've seen his information, he can still step on the path of martial arts in such a difficult environment. This shows that his talent is better than I thought. A tough environment could train one's temperament, and temperament was an important quality to become a strong person." Lu Shan was delighted. Could it be that Jiangxi could enter the sky-level training camp? Genten Buden's heaven-level training camp could be said to be the best training camp in the world. Because the heavenly level training camp's goal was to nurture A-class fighters, students who graduated normally had a high chance of becoming A-class fighters. The total number of people in the heaven-level training camp was maintained at 100. Every year, 20 trainees would graduate and 20 new trainees would join among the 7 prefectural cities of the Great Xia Kingdom, other than the weakest Jianghai Prefecture, which only had 2 spots for the Heaven Stage training camp each year. The other 6 prefectural cities had 3 spots each year. If Jiangxi could enter, then there was hope for him to become an A-class fighter. Lu Kuei continued, logically speaking, Jiangxi should be allowed to enter the heaven-level training camp. Unfortunately, some time ago, Shuntian Prefecture's Qin family used your Pak-Sen Province's Han family to take away a spot for the heaven-level training camp in Pak-Sen Province. Now, the 3 spots for the heaven-level training camp in Pak-Sen Province have been filled. Lu Shan immediately became anxious. The difference between the heaven-level training camp and the earth-level training camp was like heaven and earth. Senior Lu, if Jiangxi can be nurtured well, he can definitely become an A-class fighter. Lu Shan wanted to fight for Jiangxi. Lu Kuei shook his head. There's no other way. The rules of the training camp were set by the headmaster and the 4 elders. I can't change them. In fact, Jiangxi can enter the earth-level training camp first. With his talent, if he performs well in the earth-level training camp, he can also be promoted to the heaven-level training camp. Wait until the end of the year. That's about a year's time. On the path of martial arts, victory lies in the competition. The younger one is, the easier it is to increase one's strength. Jiangxi's gap of a year will have a huge impact. Can't you think of a way? Chen Yuan frowned. Unless Jiangxi's talent or perception can make one of the 4 elders speak up and make an exception for him. To put it bluntly, with Jiangxi's current situation, it will be difficult to move the 4 elders. You also know that they value the inheritances of the hidden families more. Lu Kuei hesitated. Lu Shan and Chen Yuan fell into silence. Although Jiangxi was the first genius to get full marks for martial arts talent only represented potential. Whether or not he could grow was another matter. The 4 elders of Genten Buden were all top A-class fighters. They were only 1 step away from reaching A-class. They had very high standards and placed great importance on rules. It would be very difficult to make one of the elders speak up and make an exception for Jiangxi. Talent, perception, Lu Shan murmured. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said loudly, I know. Jiangxi can enter the heaven-level training camp. Chen Yuan and Lu Kuei looked at him doubtfully. Lu Shan hurriedly said, I just remembered. Half a month ago, when I went to Jiangxi's house, I found that Jiangxi's 9 elemental swordsmanship had reached the minute subtlety realm. Moreover, he had only practiced it for half a year. I wonder if this will be able to move the 4 elders. His 9 elemental swordsmanship has reached the minute subtlety realm after only practicing it for half a year. Lu Kuei and Chen Yuan were both shocked. It was known as the most difficult high-level martial arts technique to practice. Even the 2 of them, A-class fighters, were not confident that they could reach the minute subtlety realm in half a year. After recovering from his shock, Lu Kuei said under Lu Shan and Chen Yuan's expectant gaze, now, his talent and perception are no longer a problem. I will contact Elder Tang now. He is the kindest of the 4 elders. Lu Shan and Chen Yuan were overjoyed. Immediately, Lu Kuei used his tactical communications watch to call Elder Tang. What's the matter? A low voice came from the other side of the phone. Lu Kuei briefly explained Jiangxi's situation. Half a year, 9 elemental swordsmanship has reached the minute subtlety realm, 18 years old, actual combat power of D-class. There was silence on the other side of the phone, probably thinking. The 3 of them did not dare to speak and waited quietly. After a while, the voice came from the other side of the phone again. The rules cannot be broken. Give him a chance. Let him pass the 3rd floor of Ling Wan Road. If he can pass the 3rd floor, he can join the heaven-class training camp. This way, the other 3 elders will have nothing to say. After saying this, the phone hung up. Lu Shan laughed. He believed that Jiangxi could pass. However, Chen Yuan's expression was somewhat serious. He said to Lu Kuei, Isn't passing the third floor of Ling Wan Road too difficult? Even the trainees of the Heaven-class training camp can only reach the second floor when they first enter, and some can only reach the first floor. Hearing this, Lu Shan's smile gradually disappeared. He asked, "Is Ling Wan Road very difficult?" "Very difficult. Trainees who enter the Heaven-class training camp basically have to wait a year before they have a chance to pass the third floor," Chen Yuan said in a deep voice. Lu Kuei also smiled bitterly. This is the biggest concession Elder Tang can make. Any more and the other 3 elders will definitely object. Although the chances are slim, it's better than none. Lu Shan's expression changed. He could hear that Chen Yuan and Lu Kuei were not optimistic about Jiangxi. "I believe in Jiangxi," Lu Shan suddenly said. "I hope so." Chen Yuan and Lu Kuei both shook their heads. "Where is Jiangxi now? I want to see him," Lu Kuei said again. Lu Shan was more familiar with Jiangxi. He nodded and said, "He's in the wilderness. Let me check his specific location." Soon, he used his authority to locate Riverward's location. "He's in Ruin 073, 400 kilometers from here." Lu Kuei smiled and said, "Then hurry up. Don't waste time. Take my plane there." Chapter 83. It was almost evening. In the middle of a crossroad in Ruin number 073, a silver-striped red python that was almost 10 meters long was wreaking havoc. The surrounding buildings collapsed one after another, stirring up clouds of dust. Jiangxi's body was like a phantom as he dodged the silver-striped red python's attacks. This silver-striped red python was a top-tier D-grade monster. It had a strong physique, high defense, and was extremely agile. It was good at both offense and defense, making it as difficult to kill as a C-grade monster. But last time in Ruin number 09, the Mad Dragon Squad could even kill a C-grade goldenback blue wolf. This silver-striped red python was nothing. The only difference was that this time, Jiangxi was the only one hunting the silver-striped red python. Wang Dalong and the other 2 watched from the side. Since there were no monsters around the silver-striped red python, they did not need to do anything. It was not that they did not want to help, but in reality, they were not good enough. Against the agile silver-striped red python, they could easily get hurt. So, Jiangxi was the only one who could handle it. Jiangxi was very confident. With his mysterious footwork, he kept dodging the silver-striped red python's attacks. Ding, 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 ding. The C-grade killer shadow sword slashed at the silver-striped red python's skin, creating a series of sparks. Its defense was too high. Only by attacking a single point and piercing continuously will I have a chance to break its defense. Point, line, and surface. By concentrating the power of the attack on a single point, it was the most powerful. With that in mind, Jiangxi increased his speed slightly, and his body became even more unpredictable. Under the silver-striped red python's frenzied attacks, he seemed to be able to handle it with ease. Kai. The tip of the sword pierced through the silver-striped red python's tough skin 1 meter below its head, and went half a foot deep. Hiss. The silver-striped red python hissed, and its half-meter-long forked tongue flickered continuously. Its huge body danced wildly, trying to wrap around Jiangxi. But Jiangxi's body flashed, and he dodged the silver-striped red python's swipe. Kai, the killer shadow sword kept stabbing forward, and every strike accurately hit the same spot. The wound became bigger and bigger. Gradually, the silver-striped red python slowed down. It hissed in the cloud of dust. Final strike. Jiangxi's eyes did not waver at all. He leaped lightly, and from top to bottom, his sword brought along a misty sword shadow as it fiercely stabbed out. Poochie. The 3-feet-long sword blade followed the wound and pulled hard. The silver-striped red python, which was thicker than a bucket, was almost cut in half. Its huge python head slumped to the ground. You killed a grade D silver-striped red python, EXP plus 50, Jiangxi panted softly and deliberately made it look like he had expended a lot of energy. In the distance, Wang Dalong and the other 2 were only left with shock and awe. Jiangxi had taken care of the silver-striped red python on his own, which meant that he had the ability to fight a Class C monster alone. This kind of combat power was no longer as simple as a top-notch D-class fighter. It could barely be considered a C-class fighter. I suddenly realized that we're about to become Jiang Ci's burden. Wang Dalong smiled bitterly, somewhat disappointed. He's growing too fast. Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng felt the same way. But very quickly, their attention was attracted by the reward this time. A grade D silver-striped red python was as difficult to kill as a Class C monster. Correspondingly, the price was also very high, between 200 to 300 million new moon dollars. A single kill was equivalent to a few days' worth of earnings. Jiang Ci did not know what Wang Dalong and the other two were thinking. He still maintained a humble and indifferent attitude. "Captain, should we continue hunting?" Jiang Ci asked. "It's getting late. Let's go back to the stronghold and rest." Wang Dalong smiled. After that, the four of them quickly left the place. Their stronghold was in a dilapidated high-class residential area, more than 3 kilometers away from here. The four of them chatted and laughed along the way, walking for about 2 kilometers. Jiang Ci suddenly stopped and raised his hand to signal everyone to stop. "There's the sound of fighting over there." Jiang Ci looked to the right. Wang Dalong and the other two heard it too. Standing there, they could vaguely hear people screaming in fear in the distance, mixed with the roars of monsters. The four of them did not rush forward. They quickly climbed up a nearby building and used binoculars to observe the situation. They saw 6 people surrounded by a group of monsters. They were in a precarious situation. As they were far away, they could not see their faces clearly. They could only see their clothes. They're students from the Shushan College of Martial Arts. What's wrong with these College of Martial Arts students? Don't they know how strong they are? Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng complained. Jiang Ci and Wang Dalong looked at each other. They had to save them. Save them. Wang Dalong shouted. The four of them were like falcons. They jumped down from a high place and flew away. The 6 people surrounded by monsters were all from the Shushan College of Martial Arts. One of them was the teacher leading the team, and the other 5 were students. The teacher was a grade E martial artist, and the students were all grade F martial artists. "It's over, it's over. We're going to die," a student screamed. The other people's faces were also ashen. They resisted the monster's attacks with difficulty. The teacher leading the team was even more regretful. He thought that nothing would happen as long as they were careful. He did not expect that they would be surrounded by a group of monsters on the first day. This group of monsters was made up of more than a dozen grade E monsters. What made them despair was that the leader of the group was close to grade D. It was very difficult for them to resist. "Qiao Wei, find a chance to escape with everyone. I'll block these monsters." The teacher leading the team gritted his teeth and said. Among the 5 students, one of them was Qiao Wei, who had a grudge with Jiang Ci. His strength was close to grade E. He was the strongest among the 5 students. However, the crazy monsters made his mind chaotic. He could not use his strength at all. He faced 3 grade F monsters in a hurry. There were already several wounds on his body. When Qiao Wei heard the teacher's words, he turned around and ran. He did not care about anything else. When he ran, the 3 grade F monsters that surrounded him lost their target. They immediately turned to other people, making the situation even more dangerous. "Qiao Wei." The teacher leading the team was furious. A student was pushed to the ground by a monster. He would lose his life in the next second. "It's over." The remaining people almost gave up resisting. At this moment, a sword light flew past. Shio. In less than a second, the sword light accompanied by a human figure directly cut the monster that was pouncing on the student into 2 halves. Then, the human figure turned around and attacked continuously in the group of monsters. More than a dozen grade F monsters became more than a dozen corpses in the blink of an eye. Even the leader of the group that was close to grade D could not withstand a single sword strike. From the time he attacked to the end of the battle, it took less than 3 seconds. When the human figure stood still, the teacher leading the team and the students realized that the one who attacked was actually a young man. The young man was fully armed. His figure was tall and straight. His face was firm, giving people a sense of steadiness. So powerful. The few of them were stunned. At the same time, they were overjoyed. They were saved. Swoosh. Swoosh. Another 3 people arrived. Damn, Jiang Ci. You're too fast. Why didn't you leave us some time? Liu Hao shouted. In the distance, Qiao Wei, who had just run a short distance, paused. He quickly stopped and turned around. Jiang Ci? His expression changed drastically. Chapter 84. I'm Liu Ming, a teacher from Shushan College of Martial Arts. Thank you for your help. Liu Ming thanked them sincerely. You're welcome. Wang Dalong smiled and shook his head. Then he changed the topic and scolded in a deep voice. Didn't your college warn you not to go to dangerous ruins during your training? Liu Ming was embarrassed and apologized. We were too careless. We thought we would be fine as long as we were careful. We didn't expect the theoretical knowledge taught by the college to be so different from the actual situation. You should leave quickly and go to a smaller ruin, Wang Dalong said. Jiang Ci did not speak. Suddenly, he heard footsteps coming from a ruined building in the distance. He turned his head and saw a familiar figure. Qiao Wei? What a coincidence. Jiang Ci frowned slightly. He remembered that Zhong Wei told him before that Qiao Wei once represented Shushan College of Martial Arts in the competition of the 4 major College of Martial Arts and even won 4th place. In that case, it was not strange that Qiao Wei appeared in this training team. Now that the 2 of them had different statuses, Jiang Ci was not interested in finding trouble with Qiao Wei, so he just glanced at him indifferently and turned his gaze away. However, Jiang Ci could maintain an indifferent attitude, but Liu Ming and the others could not. Qiao Wei, you're too disappointing. You abandoned your companions and ran away alone. Liu Ming scolded angrily. Qiao Wei, I'm your friend. You almost killed me just now. It's better if we don't be friends in the future, the student who was almost killed by the monster said with a cold face. The other 3 students also looked at Qiao Wei with disdain in their eyes. Qiao Wei's face was ugly. He clenched his fists and looked at Jiang Ci hatefully. Then he lowered his head and did not say a word. He knew that he was in the wrong. Without the halo of his background, he could no longer be as arrogant as before. Jiang Ci, Wang Dalong, and the others looked at each other. So there was such a thing. Although they looked down on the behavior of abandoning his companions in such a critical moment, they did not meddle in other people's business. That was because Qiao Wei had already been punished. Once they returned to the academy and this matter spread, there wouldn't be many people who would be willing to befriend Qiao Wei. Thank you again for your support. If I have the chance to come to Shushan Prefecture in the future, I will treat you well. Liu Ming thanked them again and prepared to leave. Then he left with the students, while Qiao Wei followed behind without saying a word. Before they had gone far, boom! A series of sonic booms resounded in the sky. It attracted everyone's attention. A grey transport plane whizzed through the dark sky and arrived above the crowd in an instant. Who is it? He actually drove the transport plane directly to the ruined city. Everyone was shocked and puzzled. Due to the huge commotion caused by the transport plane landing directly in the ruined city, it was easy to attract the attention of a large group of beasts. Those who were not strong could only wait for death. Roar! Roar! As expected, when the transport plane slowly landed, there were beastly roars coming from Ruin 073, and a group of beasts were gathering there. At this moment, the hatch of the transport plane opened and 3 people walked out. Senior Lu, Principal, Deputy Principal, Jiang Ci, Wang Dalong, and the others were even more surprised. There was another person they did not know, but judging from his aura, he was also an unfathomable Grade A elite. At the same time, the group of beasts that were gathering there, under the deterrence of the 3 people, fled frantically as if they were running for their lives. Soon, the surroundings quieted down. Under everyone's surprise, Lu Shan smiled and said, Jiang Ci, this is Lu Kuei, the manager of the Genten Buden headquarters. He came all the way here for you. For me. Jiang Ci was confused. Manager of the headquarters? Could it be the 4 great training camps of the headquarters? Wang Dalong exclaimed. With his exclamation, everyone was even more confused. Only Liu Ming's expression changed. He was a teacher in the College of Martial Arts, responsible for teaching students to become martial artists. He had also heard of the existence of the Genten Buden's 4 great training camps. He looked at Jiang Ci enviously. To be able to make the manager of the Genten Buden headquarters come personally, the meaning was obvious. All right, let's talk about this when we get back. Jiang Ci, leave with us now. Lu Kuei smiled. Although the 4 great training camps was not a secret, he did not want to talk about it in front of so many people. Jiang Ci hesitated for a moment and looked at Lu Shan with a questioning gaze. Lu Shan nodded slightly. Okay. Jiang Ci agreed. What about us? Wang Dalong asked quickly. Chen Yuan smiled and said, Dalong, Jiang Ci will leave your Mad Dragon squad from today onwards. You can return to the barracks to rest and wait for further instructions. Leave the Mad Dragon squad. Wang Dalong and the rest looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Jiang Ci was now the pillar of their squad. Hearing this, Jiang Ci frowned slightly and said to Wang Dalong, Captain, you can go back first. Wang Dalong nodded slightly. After that, Jiang Ci followed behind Lu Shan and the rest and boarded the transport plane. The grey transport plane, like an eagle, whistled and disappeared into the horizon. Looking at this scene, Wang Dalong sighed and said, Jiang Ci has finally caught the attention of the higher-ups. This is good, he will have greater development in the future. Staying in the Mad Dragon squad will only be a burden to him. Captain, the training camps you mentioned just now, what are they? Tian Chenfeng asked curiously. The headquarters of the Black Sky Martial House has 4 major training camps: Sky, Earth, Black, and Yellow. All of them train elite martial artists. The strongest training camp is the Sky Level Training Camp, and its purpose is to train A-class martial artists, Wang Dalong said with longing. Then he sighed and said, I just don't know which training camp Jiang Ci can enter. Earth level? Or Sky level? Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng were envious. If that was the case, Jiang Ci was going to take off. With Jiang Ci gone, our Mad Dragon squad's strength will be reduced by half. It's about time to disband. What are your plans? Wang Dalong asked. Liu Hao and Tian Chenfeng looked at each other. Tian Chenfeng smiled and said, Maybe I will bid farewell to the wilderness. After so many years, my heart is a little tired. I still want to fight for a few more years. Captain, will we still be together? Liu Hao looked at Wang Dalong. It depends. I'm going to find a C-class fighter squad or try my luck and see if I can enter a B-class fighter squad. Wang Dalong smiled. Liu Hao nodded with some regret. Although he and Wang Dalong were both D-class, he had become a D-class martial artist through the use of the body-strengthening potion, while Wang Dalong had risen steadily and was only 1 step away from becoming a C-class martial artist. They could not be compared. What Wang Dalong meant was to politely reject him. In the distance, Liu Ming and the others had just recovered from the shock. They looked enviously in the direction of the transport plane. However, they were congratulating Jiang Ci. After all, Jiang Ci had just saved them. Unlike them, Qiao Wei's eyes were filled with hatred and unwillingness. However, deep in his heart, there was also envy. He remembered that he had told Jiang Ci that Jiang Ci could only see his back. It was the same in the past, now, and in the future. Now, the situation was completely reversed. He could only watch Jiang Ci leave quickly. He could not even see his back. Because Jiang Ci was in the transport plane. Chapter 85. They quickly returned to Genten Buden, Pak-Sen province. Although he still did not understand what had happened, Jiang Ci remained calm and remained silent throughout the journey. Lu Kuei secretly nodded in approval at his calm attitude. After getting off the plane, the 4 of them walked into Genten Buden Building 1 under the curious gazes of the other members of the dojo. In Dojo Master Chen Yuan's office, Lu Kuei explained the situation to Jiang Ci. Jiang Ci, you should have heard of our Genten Buden's 4 great training camps, right? Lu Kuei asked. No. Jiang Xi shook his head honestly. He had never heard of them before. Lu Shan explained to Jiang Xi. After listening to his explanation, Jiang Xi was enlightened. The 4 great training camps recruit all kinds of martial arts geniuses in the Xia Empire every year and nurture them. Especially the heaven-level training camp, the goal is to nurture A-class martial artists. Students in the heaven-level training camp will undergo 5 years of learning and training. During this period, they will receive the best martial arts nurturing in the world and will be personally taught by a top-notch A-class martial artist. They will be exposed to all kinds of unimaginable cultivation resources, such as fey potions and mystic realms. It can be said that if you can enter the heaven-level training camp, as long as you don't make any mistakes in the future, becoming an A-class martial artist is a foregone conclusion. Now, you have the opportunity. Lu Shan's eyes glowed. A-class martial artist? Riverward felt that it was dull and uninteresting. There was no difficulty at all. However, he still pretended to be interested and asked, then, how can I enter the heaven-level training camp? Originally, with your qualifications, you could directly enter the sky-level training camp, but unfortunately, Pak-Sen Province has just used up the 3 spots this year. It was Deacon Lu who applied to Elder Tang at the headquarters to make an exception for you. As long as you pass the 3rd stage of Ling Wan Road, you can enter the sky-level training camp. Of course, if you fail, you can only enter the Earth-level training camp, and the chances of you becoming an A-class fighter will be much smaller, Chen Yuan explained. Thank you, Deacon Lu. Jiang Xi quickly thanked him, and then said, I have a question. What is Ling Wan Road? Lu Kuei smiled and said, if you want me to answer now, I can't say for a moment. In short, it's very magical, similar to an illusion. When you experience it yourself, you will understand what is going on. Oh, I'll think about it, Jiang Xi said calmly. Think about it. Lu Kuei's smile froze. Chen Yuan and Lu Shan were also stunned. Under normal circumstances, shouldn't he agree to it without even thinking about it? Many geniuses would fight to enter the sky-level training camp after hearing it, but Jiang Xi actually wanted to think about it. Jiang Xi, what is there to think about? Lu Shan was puzzled. Senior Lu, you know my family's situation. Jiang Dudu is so young, and you want me to leave her for 5 years. Jiang Xi shook his head. This was different from him going to the wilderness, where he could come back at any time. If he went to the sky-level training camp, it would not be so easy to come back at any time. Lu Shan was silent. Of course, he was clear about the brother and sister's situation. Lu Kuei smiled and said, it's not like I'm locking you up for 5 years. Students in the sky-level training camp have 2 months of vacation at the end of every year. Moreover, if you really enter the sky-level training camp, as long as you can become an A-class fighter in advance, you can graduate early. Then I'll think about it. Jiang Xi insisted on his attitude. Lu Kuei frowned, somewhat displeased. He was an A-class fighter, one of the 12 deacons of the Gen 10 Buden. He was already very polite to speak with Jiang Xi so patiently. All right, old Lu, give him a day to think about it. Chen Yuan tried to smooth things over. Lu Kuei nodded. Thank you. Jiang Xi was very grateful. He just realized that his attitude was a little too tough and could easily offend people. The opportunity to enter the sky-level training camp had a big impact on Jiang Xi. On the way home, he was also thinking about this matter. Just by listening to Lu Shan and the others' simple introduction, he could infer that the sky-level training camp was very powerful. Things like Ling Wan Road, fantasy, and so on sounded very fantastical. Considering that the Spirit Qi revival had appeared, there was nothing to make a fuss about if it was a fantasy. I have the experience points panel. It's not difficult to become an A-class fighter at all. It's just a matter of time. If I enter the sky-level training camp, with the help of the resources there, I think the time to become an A-class fighter can be shortened by a lot. And once I enter the sky-level training camp, I don't have to worry about the threat of Fengxian. That's the headquarters of the Gen 10 Buden. No one dares to be presumptuous. Jiang Xi analyzed the advantages and disadvantages of entering the sky-level training camp in his mind. As for whether he could enter or not, he didn't even consider it. What a joke. His actual combat strength had already reached B class. If he still couldn't enter, he might as well be slapped to death with tofu. What a pity, Jiang Xi shook his head. He had already reached the door of his house. He raised his head and looked at the big villa in front of him. If it weren't for Jiang Dudu, he would definitely go. But reality was reality. In general, in his heart, he had already tacitly agreed not to go. When he got home, Jiang Dudu still hadn't come back. It's already past 7 in the evening. Dudu should be home after school. Jiang Xi was a little puzzled. After thinking about it, Jiang Xi slapped his head. Jiang Dudu should be training at the dojo at this time. It seems that the sky-level training camp matter still affected me. Jiang Xi shook his head and threw this matter to the back of his mind. After sending a message to Jiang Dudu, he started to cook. In less than 10 minutes, Jiang Dudu rushed home like the wind. "Brother, why are you back?" Jiang Dudu ran back, panting, her small face slightly red. Every time Jiang Xi went into the wilderness, it was basically a month. This time, it was only half a month. Something happened, so I came back early. Jiang Xi was wearing a red apron and washing vegetables. He turned around and smiled. "Help me wash the green onions. I'll make a dish of lamb with fried onions tonight." "Oh." Jiang Dudu didn't ask what happened and started to wash the green onions. The two of them chatted and laughed as they finished preparing the meal. Sweet and sour pork, lamb with fried onions, and stewed pork knuckles. Of course, the ingredients were all monster meat, which was nutritious and high in energy. During dinner, Jiang Dudu suddenly said, "Brother, there's something on your mind. You've seen through me." Jiang Xi chuckled and briefly explained the situation in the heaven-level training camp. The Gen 10 Buden headquarters is on the plateau in the west of Qingnan Prefecture. It's thousands of miles away from here. It's too far. That's why I don't want to go. Jiang Dudu put down her chopsticks and stared at Jiang Xi. She said with a serious expression, "Brother, I don't want to be a burden to you." Jiang Xi was stunned and smiled. "You're not a burden." Jiang Dudu shook her head. "You don't understand what I mean. What era is it now?" Without waiting for Jiang Xi to answer, Jiang Dudu answered, "It's the era of warriors. The era where the strong are respected. Brother, you should pursue the path of the strong. You have to remember that the separation now is for the sake of a better encounter in the future. Being born in this era, if you don't have strength, you can only live on while at death's door. The two of us must become strong." Chapter 86. Jiang Xi's mind was shaken. He knew very well that Jiang Dudu had always lacked a sense of security after living as a vagabond for so many years. To be able to say such words, Jiang Dudu must have expended a lot of courage. The separation now was for a better encounter in the future. Being born in this era, if one did not have strength, they would at most struggle to survive. Strength. He quietly looked at the experience panel. Level, Bone-honed Level D, 6500110000, Cultivation Method, 9 Elements Heart Technique Martial Technique 9 Elements Sword Technique, Fusion, 168130000, Wind Shadow Steps, Refinement, 876110000, Force Exertion, 6, 22 Experience Points, 32977. During the half a month in Ruin number 073, he had improved a lot. Based on his current speed of gaining 100 experience points per day, he would need another 2 months to reach level C. Jiang Xi knew himself well. If he wanted to reach level A in terms of actual combat power, level C was definitely not enough. Currently, on the experience panel, the only thing that can be broken through in a short time is Wind Shadow Steps. However, with just Wind Shadow Steps at the fusion realm, it will be difficult to reach level A in terms of combat power. In his plan, he was prepared to use 2 to 3 years to achieve his goal of reaching level A in terms of actual combat power. However, after listening to Jiang Dudu's words, Jiang Xi suddenly remembered that he had been very careful recently, not daring to reveal his true speed and strength. He was afraid of being discovered as the murderer with a huge bounty on his head. This kind of life was somewhat sullen. Could it be that before becoming a leveler martial artist, he would have to be so careful? No one could guarantee that he could keep a low profile in these 2 to 3 years. No matter how careful he was, there would always be a time when he would give himself away. However, after entering the training camp, these worries would no longer exist. At that time, not only would he be able to borrow the cultivation resources of the heaven-level training camp to shorten the time needed to reach level A, but he would also be able to eliminate the threat of Feng Xian after a moment of silence. Jiang Xi understood all these. He stared into Jiang Dudu's eyes and said seriously, "I'll go." Jiang Dudu smiled very happily. The next morning, in Chen Yuan's office, Jiang Xi and Lu Kuei sat side by side in front of their desks, signing the enrollment contract for the training camp. Beside him stood Chen Yuan and Lu Shan. They were the witnesses. This contract is equivalent to a letter of intent. If you can pass the third stage of Ling Wan Road, you can sign an official heaven-level training contract with the dojo. Of course, if you fail, you can only enter the earth-level training camp. Lu Kuei laughed. Jiang Xi nodded gently. He was full of confidence. "Trust me, you won't regret your decision today. Our Gen 10 Buden's 4 great training camps are the best training grounds in the world," Lu Kuei added when he saw that Jiang Xi did not have much of a reaction. Jiang Xi quickly put on a longing expression. His reaction just now was a little cold. Very good. Lu Kuei was very satisfied with Jiang Xi's attitude. This was the expression that geniuses should have before entering the training camp. Chen Yuan and Lu Shan also laughed. Everyone was happy, especially Lu Shan. He had witnessed Jiang Xi's growth. He was happy that Jiang Xi could have such an opportunity. He hoped that Jiang Xi could successfully enter the heaven-level training camp. "Go and prepare. Say goodbye to your family and friends. We will leave for the dojo headquarters in 3 days." Lu Kuei laughed. Say goodbye to his family and friends. After leaving Chen Yuan's office, Jiang Xi suddenly understood. Yes, after entering the training camp, he could not return home as he wished, like in the wilderness. Family, friends. After thinking for a while, Jiang Xi shook his head and smiled. It did not seem like much. But as long as it was sincere, it was fine. In the next 3 days, Jiang Xi spent 2 days with Jiang Dudu. He cooked at home, took a walk, watched movies, and chatted. He also went to Uncle Yang's house for half a day. It was very relaxing. Riverward had also completely forgotten to cultivate, and had truly relaxed. There was only 1 day left. Jiang Xi called Zhong Wei, Jiang Sheng, Wang Dalong, and the others to gather in a Gen 10 Buden restaurant TSK, Gen 10 Buden headquarters training camp. After understanding the situation, Zhong Wei looked like he had eaten 10,000 tons of lemons. Jiang Xi, just you wait. I will enter sooner or later. Zhong Wei was unwilling to admit defeat. Jiang Xi laughed. He could see that Zhong Wei was working very hard. Perhaps he really had a chance to enter one of the 4 major training camps. Of course, it might be difficult to enter the heaven-level training camp, but there was still hope for the other 3. Now, he had a rough understanding of the conditions to enter the heaven-level training camp. In addition to the necessary quota, the student must be under the age of 20 and be at least D class. After the meal, Jiang Xi, Wang Dalong, and the others dealt with the materials of the monsters hunted in Ruin 073. After half a month of hunting, they earned a total of 980 million new moon dollars. The main reason was that the last silver-striped red python was very valuable. Riverward already knew that the Berserk Dragon Squad was about to disband. Under his request, the last harvest was split equally between everyone. Wang Dalong and the others could not resist Jiang Xi's request and could only accept it. After the split, each person received 245 million new moon dollars. Wang Dalong, Liu Hao, and Tian Chenfeng were all very emotional. Ever since Jiang Xi joined the Mad Dragon Squad, their income soared. In just half a year, their income was equivalent to more than 10 years of their income. New Moon Year 93, January 20th, morning. The weather was slightly chilly. In the square of Gen 10 Buden, Pakistan province, Lu Kuei's plane was parked there, ready to take off. Jiang Dudu seemed to have grown up a lot. There was no sign of the sadness of parting at all. She smiled and said, "Brother, be careful. Don't get hurt. Most importantly, don't forget to call me. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Most importantly, don't hook up with women outside, especially those vixens." Although Jiang Dudu was smiling like a flower, Jiang Xi felt a chill in his bones from her last sentence. Am I that kind of person? Jiang Xi could not help but roll his eyes. You're not, but you are a vixen. Jiang Dudu maintained her smile. Jiang Xi was speechless for a while. Then, he said with a serious expression, you too. After I leave, you must eat well, study well, and train well. Most importantly, don't watch too many horror movies in the middle of the night. Don't treat me like a parent. Jiang Dudu glared at him and her smile disappeared. Jiang Xi scratched his head and turned his gaze to Jiang Sheng beside him. He smiled and said, Uncle Jiang, I'll have to trouble you to take care of Dudu for me in the future. Haha, don't worry. I'll treat her like my own daughter. Jiang Sheng laughed. Jiang Dudu did not refute this time and remained silent. Zhong Wei, work hard. I'll be waiting for you in the training camp. Don't pull your legs. Jiang Xi smiled at Zhong Wei. Don't look down on me. Zhong Wei was annoyed. At this time, Lu Kuei shouted from afar, Jiang Xi, everyone's here. It's time to go. Jiang Xi took a deep breath and rubbed Jiang Dudu's hair. He squeezed out a smile and said, I'm leaving. Oh. Jiang Dudu lowered her head. After that, Jiang Xi waved his hand and strode toward the transport plane without looking back. In front of the transport plane, besides Lu Kuei, Chen Yuan, and Lu Shan, there were 3 other young men. When Jiang Xi got closer, his eyes focused. He had seen one of the 3 young men before. Qin Feng. Chapter 87. Qin Feng only looked at Jiang Xi coldly with disdain in his eyes. It seemed that he already knew that Jiang Xi was going to the Genten Buden headquarters. Jiang Xi did not mind and smiled gently. They were all adults. They had to be more mature and put on more pretenses. Last time, Lu Shan reminded him that Qin Feng was a little cunning and he had to be more careful. Then, everyone followed Lu Kuei and boarded the transport plane. The grey transport plane whistled and soared into the sky. Facing the morning sun, it turned into a stream of light and disappeared quickly. Jiang Dudu stood there with her head lowered. When she heard the roaring sound of the transport plane, she suddenly raised her head. Her eyes were red and filled with tears. In the past, Jiang Xi would go to the wilderness for a month. She didn't feel too reluctant because Jiangxi didn't go far and could go home at any time. This time, she would be far away from Jiang Xi and be separated for a long time. Almost 10,000 miles away. There was only one holiday every year. The next time they met would be during the new year. In fact, these few days, she had thought of trying to go to the Genten Buden headquarters with Jiang Xi. But in the end, she gave up because she did not want to live in Jiang Xi's shadow. She wanted to walk side by side with Jiang Xi. Jiang Sheng put his hand on Jiang Dudu's shoulder and sighed softly. He did not say anything to comfort her. He believed that Jiang Dudu could adjust. However, what surprised him was that after the transport plane disappeared, Jiang Dudu suddenly raised her hand to wipe away her tears. Her eyes quickly became firm. Uncle Jiang, I want to go for training. Jiang Dudu looked serious. Jiang Sheng and Zhong Wei looked at each other. Wasn't this adjustment too fast? The distance from Pakistan province to the Genten Buden headquarters was more than 9,000 li. This transport plane was very fast, with an average speed of 4,000 km per hour. It would arrive at the Genten Buden headquarters in a little over an hour. On the transport plane, Lu Kuei was resting with his eyes closed. Jiang Xi and Qin Feng were quite far from each other, while the other 2 youths were quite casual. No one said anything. After flying for more than half an hour, one of the young men with a resolute face suddenly walked up to Jiang Xi and smiled. Hello, Jiang Xi. I saw you from afar during the last warrior combat assessment. I didn't expect you to improve so quickly. You are indeed the genius that President He and Commander Zhao named. It has only been half a year, and you already have rank D combat strength. Jiang Ci was stunned. This person was very friendly, but he didn't know him. During the warrior combat assessment. Hello, we haven't met before, right? The resolute young man smiled and nodded. Then, he said seriously, you haven't met me before. Let me introduce myself. I am Zhu Xing, the Deputy Battalion Commander of the 1st Battalion of the Northern Mountain Army's 1st Army Military Brigade. My military rank is Captain. Jiang Ci was in awe and stood up. No wonder he felt the iron-blooded aura of a soldier from Zhu Xing just now. Hello, Battalion Commander Zhu. Haha, we are not in the military camp. You can just call me by my name. Speaking of which, you should know someone. Do you remember her? Zhu Xing smiled and said. Jiang Ci showed a puzzled expression. Do you remember Han Yingxue, who came in first in the last warrior combat assessment? She is my junior sister, and she is also a genius. The world was so small. You know junior sister Han too? To everyone's surprise, the other delicate and pretty youth who had been silent all this while suddenly opened his mouth in surprise. For a moment, everyone was stunned. Even Lu Kuei, who was sitting in the front with his eyes closed, opened his eyes in surprise. The world was really small. My name is Yang Chao. I am a fourth-year student of the Hokuzen Budo Academy's combat faculty. I have met junior sister Han many times and have a good relationship with her. The young man was a little shy and did not speak. If it were not for this topic, he might not have spoken along the way. Jiang Ci patted his forehead. He was a little confused. This was too much of a coincidence. He subconsciously glanced at Qin Feng. This handsome and sinister person also knew Han Yingxue. This meant that the 4 people who set off for the Zhenten Buden headquarters this time were all related to Han Yingxue. If this stubborn girl was in a novel, she would definitely have the life of a main character. Qin Feng snorted coldly. At the mention of Han Yingxue, he was filled with hatred for Jiang Ci. Ever since he met Han Yingxue at that restaurant, he had not seen Han Yingxue for more than half a month in Pak Sen province. Han Yingxue was one of the best among the younger generation of the various reclusive families in the Da Xia kingdom. She was beautiful and was valued by many people. The Qin and Han families had a long history among the reclusive families. They had extraordinary backgrounds and placed great emphasis on cultivating bloodlines. The 2 families also had the intention to let him and Han Yingxue walk together and form a strong alliance. Therefore, Qin Feng had always regarded Han Yingxue as his own. It was impossible to say that he liked Han Yingxue. After all, they had only interacted a little when they were young. Strictly speaking, he only had a possessive desire for Han Yingxue. Jiang Ci's existence and Han Yingxue's attitude made Qin Feng burn with jealousy. Some time ago, he wanted to suppress and deal with Jiang Ci through the Warriors Supervision Bureau of Pak Sen province. But in the end, due to some irresistible force, this plan was abandoned. You're lucky. When we get to the training camp, everyone will rely on their own abilities. Without protection, you can only wait for death. Qin Feng thought bitterly. On the other side, Zhu Xing and Yang Chao saw that Qin Feng was a little arrogant and had no interest in striking up a conversation with him. They just stayed with Jiang Ci. The 3 of them chatted and laughed, and soon became familiar with each other. After some understanding, Jiang Ci finally understood why people from the Northern Mountain Army and Hokuzen Budo Academy could also enter the Zhenten Buden training camp. It turned out that the 4 main training camps of Zhenten Buden were open to the public. As long as one was a citizen of the Da Xia kingdom, they were qualified to enter. This was especially true for the army. Every year, the prefectural city would reserve a quota for military martial artists. Zhu Xing and Yang Chao were both D-level martial artists. Moreover, they were 20 years old and had outstanding talent. They met the requirements to enter the heaven-level training camp. When the 2 of them found out that Jiang Ci still had to pass the test to enter the heaven-level training camp, they both gave him encouragement. Jiangxi also thanked them one by one. The transport plane flew very smoothly. There were no bumps or noises. When flying in the wilderness, it was inevitable to encounter flying monsters. Ordinary planes might be dangerous. However, this transport plane could fly unscrupulously in the wilderness. This was because it was the most advanced transport plane. Whether it was flying or fighting, it was top-notch. The only possible danger was that it would encounter flying A-level monsters. Of course, with Lu Kuei around, ordinary A-level monsters would not dare to invade. Soon, the transport plane began to descend. We're almost there. Jiangxi and the others also stopped talking and looked out the window. They could only see a white mountain range that stretched across the land like a long dragon. It was impossible to see the end of it. This should be the Kunlun Mountains, right? Yang Chao exclaimed. The legendary sacred mountain. Zhu Xing's eyes lit up. Chapter 88. On the plateau, long snow-colored dragons seemed to be rushing into the sky. It was a spectacular sight. Riverward's heart was also in turmoil. It was because he had visited this plateau before in the olden era. Even though the scenery at that time made one feel relaxed and happy, it wasn't as shocking as it was now. The Kunlun Mountains in the Spirit Chi revival era was more like a fairyland. It was still winter, but there were many lush forests between the snow-capped mountains. It was mysterious and majestic. The headquarters of Zhenten Buden is located on the plateau in the south of the Kunlun Mountains, near Qingnan Prefecture. It is called Xiantian City, which is equivalent to a small prefecture city. The strongest man in the world, Xiantian, used his powerful strength to intimidate the monsters on the plateau and forcibly carved out a habitat for the human race. Yang Chao was from the academic school, so he remembered the theoretical knowledge very well. Yes, if it weren't for the small population of Xiantian City, with only 10 million residents, the Dacia kingdom might have been able to claim that it has 8 prefectures. Zhu Xing sighed. Among the 4 of them, only Jiangxi was a Zhenten Buden martial artist. However, he knew very little about this background. Riverward kept nodding his head as he listened to their conversation. The Western Plateau was not like the 7 prefectures, where the living conditions were suitable. The living conditions here were more harsh, so the population was much smaller. On the other side, Qin Feng leaned against the corner of the wall with a look of disdain. What do you guys know? Although Xiantian City has the smallest population, it is second only to Shuntian Prefecture in terms of the number of martial artists and powerhouses. The harsher the environment, the more it can train one's willpower and strength. Therefore, the ratio of martial artists in Xiantian City is very high, and the probability of powerhouses appearing is also very high. This is also the reason why Zhenten Buden has so many powerhouses. As LV Kuei spoke, he stood up and stretched his back. The 4 of them were silent and listened obediently. Jiangxi thought that part of the reason why Xiantian City was so strong must have something to do with Zhenten Buden. After all, this was the headquarters of Zhenten Buden. There were many strong people here. Just by distributing some resources to the Xiantian City, many martial artists would be able to soar. Soon, the Xiantian City came into view. It was a huge city that was one size smaller than Pakistan province. Located on a plateau, Xiantian City was also surrounded by a tall city wall to fend off the monsters in the wilderness. The transport plane did not stop in Xiantian City. Instead, it continued to fly deeper into the plateau. Jiangxi and Zhu Xing were surprised. Not entering the city? The training camp is outside the city. You must remember that we are here to improve our strength, not to enjoy ourselves. Lu Kuei said solemnly. Jiangxi, Zhu Xing, and Yang Chao nodded solemnly. Only Qin Feng still had a look of disdain on his face. After a while, the transport plane slowly landed. After getting off the plane, they saw a small town. They were now in the town square. On the left was the residential area. There were exquisite villas and apartments. On the right was the functional area. There were shopping malls and restaurants. In front of the town square, there were 4 huge buildings. They were very similar to the 3 huge buildings in Zhenten Buden in Pakistan province. Of course, The buildings here looked more majestic. There were very few people in the town. Even if there were one or two, they were in a hurry. At most, they would bow to Lu Kuei, then look at Jiang Xi and the others curiously before leaving. Chang Qing, come here. Lu Kuei shouted to a young man who was passing by. The young man named Chang Qing, who was wearing a short-sleeved shirt and had a strong body, trotted over. Greetings, Chief Instructor. Chang Qing bowed respectfully. He was neither servile nor overbearing, and he did not hide his aura. So strong. Zhu Xing and Yang Chao were shocked. This young man, who looked about their age, was actually a B-class martial artist. Jiang Xi was also surprised. Although he had the combat power of a B-class martial artist, it was due to the experience panel. Chang Qing did not have such conditions. He was only in his 20s, and he was already a B-class martial artist. Such strength, if placed in the martial arts world of Pak-Sen province, would be in the top 10. Think about Lu Shan, who was in his 40s and had just broken through to B-class. He must be a genius trainee from the heaven-level training camp. Jiang Xi guessed. At this moment, he put away his contempt. Originally, he only came for the resources of the heaven-level training camp. He did not care about the trainees inside. It seemed that he had to take this seriously. It would be embarrassing if he were to fail because of his underestimation of him. As expected, Lu Kuei said, "Take these 3 juniors and report to the heaven-level training camp." They were indeed trainees from the heaven-level training camp. The 3 juniors were Qin Feng, Zhu Xing, and Yang Chao. They were the ones who had been accepted into the heaven-level training camp. Although Yang Chao was shy, after everyone became familiar with each other, he became more open and encouraged Jiang Xi. "Jiang Xi, do your best." "Haha, I believe that Jiang Xi will definitely pass the test and pass the 3rd stage of Ling Wn Road." Zhu Xing laughed. He had seen Jiang Xi's amazing performance in the martial artist combat assessment, and he had full confidence in Jiang Xi. "Okay, after I pass, I'll treat you two to a meal." Jiang Xi chuckled. Chang Qing was still a little puzzled by their conversation, but when he heard this, he looked at Jiang Xi in surprise. Was this junior also a trainee of the heaven-level training camp? But why did he want to pass the 3rd stage of Ling Wan Road? Speaking of which, this junior was really confident. Half of the trainees in the heaven-level training camp had not passed this stage yet. He wanted to pass the 3rd stage as soon as he arrived. However, he did not ask. There were many people who were blindly confident, and they would eventually be hammered by reality. On the side, Qin Feng still kept a distance from everyone, looking slightly arrogant. Listening to the conversation between Jiang Xi and the others, the disdain in his heart grew stronger. Then, Chang Qing left with the 3 of them. Lu Kuei looked at Jiang Xi and said, "Now you're the only one left. I hope you can pass the 3rd stage of Ling Wan Road like they said. Let's go, I'll take you to Ling Wan Road now." The 3rd stage of Ling Wan Road. Jiang Xi was curious and expectant. After talking for so long, what was Ling Wan Road? What was so magical about it? Was it an illusion? Jiang Xi followed Lu Kuei and came to the front of the 4 giant buildings in front of the square. Genten Buden branches all over the country have similar giant buildings, but there are some differences here. These 4 buildings correspond to the 4 major training camps. They are Tianyuan Pavilion, Dianyuan Pavilion, Shenyuan Pavilion, and Huangyuan Pavilion. Each of them has many facilities related to cultivation. It is where the trainees of each training camp usually train and improve. Among them, Ling Wan Road is in Tianyuan Pavilion. If you can successfully enter the heaven-level training camp, you will have to come to Tianyuan Pavilion often in the future. Lu Kuei introduced with a smile. Jiang Xi observed carefully. Tianyuan Pavilion covered a large area, with only 3 floors. However, the height of each floor was much higher, and the architectural style was different from ordinary buildings. It seemed to be piled up with huge stones. Walking into the 1st floor, there was no reception hall, only a large training field. In the deepest part, there was a 3-meter-high stone pillar platform. Vaguely, the stone pillar platform looked very simple. Chapter 89. In the training field, Jiang Xi saw only one student practicing martial arts. Whoosh whoosh, not far away, a bare-chested brawny man wielded a large saber in his hand. The saber flashed, and every slash shook the air. The power was astonishing. He was so focused that he did not notice Jiang Xi and Lu Kuei. Very strong. It should be an advanced saber technique that has reached the minute subtlety realm. This person's strength is at least B-class. Jiang Xi was shocked. He had encountered 2 heaven-level training camp students in a row, and both of them had reached B-class. Lu Kuei smiled. The first floor is the combat center. It's a place to practice martial arts and engage in combat. However, very few people come here to practice martial arts. Jiang Xi nodded slightly. It was normal. He would do the same. Martial arts were everyone's trump card. Very few martial artists were willing to practice martial arts in public. That way, others would be able to see through them. If you can successfully enter the heaven-level training camp, you will slowly understand these facilities in the future. Let's go to the second floor. Ling Wan Road is there. Lu Kuei did not want to waste time. Jiang Xi only smiled. Judging from Lu Kuei's tone, he did not have high hopes for him. There was a large enclosed room on the second floor. Outside the room was a row of sofas for resting. At this moment, someone was using it. He needed to wait for a while. Jiang Xi looked around and then focused his attention on the enclosed room. This room seemed to be very private. There were no windows, and the door was very thick. The whole thing was black. Ling Wan Road is inside. Because it is one of the most valuable items in the training camp, its defense level is very high. This door is made of A-class alloy and is 1 meter thick. Lu Kuei said proudly. A-class alloy. 1 meter thick. River Word was completely stunned. How fucking extravagant. The defense level was not only high, it was simply abnormal. A-class alloy was the raw material used to forge A-class weapons. The A-grade Shadows Layer sword, including the hilt, was only 1.3 meters long. How much was it worth? Jiang Xi had checked the price in the Xiantian shopping center. 30 billion new moon dollars. The door in front of him was a sliding door with a height of 5 meters, a width of 3 meters, and a thickness of 1 meter. How many Shadows Layer swords could he make? After setting up a stall and selling vegetables for so many years, Jiang Xi believed that his mental arithmetic ability was not bad. But now, he suddenly couldn't calculate the value of this door. Its value could no longer be described as hundreds of billions. 1 trillion? 10 trillion? Then, how valuable was the Ling Wan Road in this room? Jiang Xi felt a sense of suffocation coming from his defense. He was unable to speak. Beside him, Lu Kuei chuckled. To be honest, he had been depressed ever since he met Jiang Xi. He had been in charge of the 4 great training camps for many years, but he had never seen someone like Jiang Xi. When other geniuses heard that it was an opportunity to train in the heavenly training camp, they were excited and couldn't wait. But Jiang Xi's reaction was cold. He actually wanted to consider it. At that time, if not for Chen Yuan smoothing things over, he would have flicked his sleeves and left. Later, even when Jiang Xi agreed, Lu Kuei found that Jiang Xi's reaction was very calm. There was no excitement or surprise. If not for the fact that he had seen Jiang Xi's information and knew that Jiang Xi's grades were good, he would have suspected that he had recruited a retard. Now, Jiang Xi was finally shocked. Lu Kuei was in a good mood. It was even better than killing an A-grade monster. Rumble. The door made of A-grade alloy slowly opened. A petite female student walked out. When she saw Jiang Xi and Lu Kuei, she was obviously stunned. Greetings, Chief Instructor. She quickly bowed. Hello. Lu Kuei only nodded. Then, he led Jiang Xi in and the door slowly closed. The female student didn't leave. Her pretty face revealed a thoughtful expression. The Chief Instructor is personally leading the way. Are they new students? That's right. Looking at the time, some of the new students of the Heavenly Training Camp should have arrived. No, It's not the time for the new students to take their first Ling WAN road assessment. She shook her head again. This has never happened before. Since I have nothing to do, let's take a look first. She sat down on the sofa in the resting area with great interest. Inside the room, Jiang Ci was stunned. He was shocked again. What? This is Ling WAN Road. In the middle of the room, there was a huge rock that was about 3 meters tall. The rock had 4 sides. 3 of them were vertical, and the last one was a slope. The so-called Ling WAN Road was on this huge slope. There were a total of 9 steps. In other words, these 9 steps were chiseled out of this rock. Looking at the other 3 sides of the rock, they were actually very smooth. It was as if someone had cut them with a knife. It was very uncoordinated. Are you disappointed? Lu Kuei asked with a smile. Jiang Ci nodded. He was indeed very disappointed. After all this time, it was actually just ordinary stone steps. Moreover, he vaguely felt that the entire rock had been dug out from somewhere else. Feel it carefully with your heart, Lu Kuei said again. Feel it with my heart. Jiang Ci was puzzled. He carefully observed the huge rock in front of him. The rock and the surface of the steps seemed to have suffered the ravages of time and could be weathered away at any time. Something's not right. It's a little unusual. Jiang Ci calmed down and became serious. After looking at it for a long time, he suddenly felt a kind of simple charm. The chief instructor once said that in this era, the more simple something looks, the more you can't underestimate it. Lu Kuei said with a smile. The chief instructor said that? Jiang Ci was startled. Wasn't that what the world's strongest person, Shen Tian, said? It seemed to make sense. It is said that the chief instructor and senior Li Baibai found Ling WAN Road in a mysterious place. Li Baibai, senior Li Baibai, and the others didn't like these ordinary stone steps. However, the chief instructor noticed the difference and directly carried it back. Lu Kuei seemed to be reminiscing. His words made Jiang Ci fall into silence. He felt that it wasn't that simple. Was he sure that the chief instructor didn't use a knife to cut it down? Then what's the matter with the illusion? Jiang Ci was very curious about this. As for the origin of Ling WAN Road, he estimated that he wouldn't be able to figure it out in a short time. It was better to go back to the present. He had to pass the Ling WAN Road assessment first. It's similar to a mythical method. When people stand on the steps, their spiritual consciousness will fall into a specific illusion. The so-called Ling WAN Road assessment is to pass the trial in the illusion. Lu Kuei explained with a smile. Jiang Ci let out a long breath. His thoughts were a little messy. Mythical method, the illusion trial. Lu Kuei continued, you will know this when you climb the steps. Let's talk about the content of the illusion trial first. Ling WAN Road has 9 steps. Each step has an illusion. The next 3 steps are a stage. You have to pass the 3rd step, which is the first stage. In the illusion, you are a trial taker. The target of the trial is 100 monsters of the same realm as your body. Your mission is to kill these 100 monsters. Hearing this, Jiang Ci was really relieved. His body realm was D-class, but his actual combat power was B-class. He had never encountered a group of 100 D-class monsters before. Jiang Ci estimated that the overall strength should be about the same as the 2-headed demon wolf group he encountered in ruin number 09 last time. At that time, he had escaped to his limit and was in a very sorry state. But it was different now. His actual combat power was at least 10 times stronger than when he was in ruin number 09. He was still confident that he could destroy a group of 100 D-class monsters. Lu Kuei saw that Jiang Ci was very calm again and shook his head. Don't be careless. The monsters in the illusion are somewhat different from the monsters in the wilderness. Their attacks are very mysterious. If measured by the realm of martial arts, the monsters in the illusion of the first 3 steps are all at the realm of small mastery of advanced martial art. Jiang Ci's expression changed. Normal D-class monsters were easy to deal with. But if the monster's attack was at the realm of small mastery of advanced martial arts, then its strength was not simple. In other words, Each of these monsters was comparable to a normal C-class monster. The difficulty of this trial was more than 10 times higher than he had imagined. Abnormal. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.